Welcome back to the Pod of Greed.
That's right. This is a very special episode because it is the 1
year
anniversary
of
the Pod of Greed. Thank you guys so much for your, I want to say watching, but I suppose listening,
watching, however you got to do it.
Support over this past year. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie, man. I didn't expect us to do anything consistently for a year.
The only thing I've done for a year is breathe.
Yeah, so we've been doing this for a year. This is episode 52. The first episode, I looked it up, was on May 4th last year.
Wow.
May the 4th.
And this is May the 1st.
Or I guess they'll be singing the second. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting conundrum, really, because there's not a lot of Yugioh news this week, per se, but there's a lot of other very interesting news this week.
Well, we can add in our own bit of Yugioh news.
True.
By giving away a pot of greed to one of you guys.
Yeah, that's right. So to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of the Pod of Greed, we're giving away a giant ceramic pot of greed.
Just like ours, nix the broken handle.
Yeah, you will get a new, not broken. They don't actually know that story, do they?
They don't.
Yeah, we were once mishandling this thing, I think. It was when I was doing that big collection video.
I've mishandled it a few times in the past, so...
Yeah, we had to kind of super glue ours back
because these things come with multiple warnings. They tell you don't fill it with anything. Don't hold it by the handle.
Yeah, it is cool. It is very delicate.
Yes.
We disregarded that.
Because I held it by the handle many times.
Yeah, we held it by the handle enough. We're like, it'll be fine, whatever. And then once I was preparing for that collection video, and then I was like, oh, the handle broke. And then anyway, the point is, so if you guys want a chance to win your very own real Bandai ceramic pot of greed.
It doesn't matter how you're listening to this. We need you to go to the YouTube video, like the video, and leave a comment. What is your favorite fandom and why?
Yes, it could be Yu-Gi-Oh! Or otherwise.
It could be Yu-Gi-Oh!, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or some of my favorites. You can pick those.
Anime, all kinds of things, Gundam, whatever. And we will remind you guys, of course, again later at the end of the podcast. Mm-hmm. So don't forget. But yeah, just make sure that you guys do that.
And you can get your own pot.
Yeah, one lucky winner is going to get their own pot of greed.
Now, if you want to, if you must have our pot, we don't mind giving you our cracked handle pot, and we would just get a new pot. I mean,
that wouldn't be a problem. that would be totally fine.
For some people, it might be worth more that way.
Yeah, so thank you guys, though, for a full year of listening and support. Mm-hmm. Also, shout outs to everybody, of course, who's watching this one live. Put a 2 in the chat
up, y'all.
To draw 2 cards.
Up in chat.
Also, I have a review for us before we get into the news. So, this is from Anubis. He says, I've been a longtime player since back in the LOB days, but have been in and out ever since. Listening to the pod really got me back into the game, and I was able to get my brother and my best friend to both start playing again as a result.
Dragged them in.
Very cool. Maybe he didn't drag them. He might have, drawn them in.
Well, I feel like he drew one in, but then someone else got dragged.
Always a great listen and makes my work days go a lot smoother and a little easier. Thanks for always brightening up my Thursdays. You guys are the best. They left 5 stars.
Let's go. We appreciate you.
Very much appreciated if you guys are listening to the pod on any platform of choice. Make sure that you leave a positive review.
I wonder if his name is a reference to the Greek god Anubis or the Anubis from the Pyramid of Light movie.
Probably from the Pyramid of Light. You know what's interesting? That movie does not get talked about enough.
It doesn't. Because
people talk about Dark Side of Dimensions a lot, but Anubis was a cool villain.
It gets overshadowed by pretty much every Yu-Gi-Oh movie.
Yeah, I think we deserve a new Yu-Gi-Oh movie, although I don't know what it would be about.
I think cool. Japan is more likely to make a Go Rush movie than they are to make a Yu-Gi-Oh
That's
movie.
True. And this is no hate to Go Rush or anything. I just don't think it would really be very popular.
Maybe in Japan
it would be. In Japan.
In the States.
Yeah, hard to say. Anyways, thanks. We appreciate the review. Let's get into the Yu-Gi-Oh news.
All right.
And by Yu-Gi-Oh news, I mean not loads, but we got to talk about this YCS Japan thing. I don't know if you've seen.
I've never been to a YCS in Japan.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very few people have, actually, as it happens. But the more important thing is that YCSJ beat the Guinness World Records. So it says, Konami Digital Entertainment celebrated achieving 2 Guinness World Records at the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series Japan Tokyo 24 at Tokyo Big Sight. We were at Tokyo Big Sight for Worlds last year. The event marked its 10th iteration and set records for both most entrants in a trading card game tournament and largest trading card game tournament, which seems awful similar.
Yeah, I'm a little confused, but okay.
Okay, with 7,443 participants.
Woo!
Konami Digital Entertainment's executive director accepted the official Guinness World Records certificate, as seen in this picture right here. So
that's crazy.
This was a really cool event. It was a YCS in Japan, which I've heard are a little bit different than our YCS events. They are best of one formats. So no side decking, you just kind of play your best of one.
Boy, they get massive dueling on y'all.
But they got over 7,000 people. So that's like kind of crazy. I mean, like the largest YCS here in the West, I want to say, has been around like roughly 3,000. So this is like literally more than double.
More than double. That sounds like Yugioh is doing well in Japan.
Yugioh is doing well. You know, remember we talked about it last week, the sales or whatever.
That's true. Yugioh was what, their third biggest? And
second biggest.
It had seen growth in the last year.
Yeah, second biggest behind Pokemon, which like, I mean,
nobody's topping Pokemon anytime soon.
It's always a fight for second with that.
But it's probably, judging from this, it's the most played.
Yeah, most entered tournament of all time. So I thought that was really cool. I mean, I feel like with Yu-Gi-Oh, it seems like in Japan, it's the game that the most people kind of want to play. Like I want to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I want to collect it and I want to play it. Whereas like Pokemon's like collect it. And I think a lot of the other games are also like collect it and play it. But like Yu-Gi-Oh is the one where it seems like you really want to play.
So best of ones where like your opponent can just combo off for 10 minutes feels horrible.
It feels really stressful to play a tournament with those kind of rules. Although
but maybe it's less stressful. Like once the game starts and your opponent starts comboing and you see you have no hand traps, you can just leave.
Well, the thing is, I imagine that. So it's actually kind of an interesting little, not a segue into anything, but just it kind of reminds me about how like Master Duel is best of one.
Yeah.
And I remember when Master Duel came out and it was best of one, people were like freaking out. They were like, you know, what the hell? Why is this best of one? This makes no sense. And it actually makes, I guess, a lot more sense when you consider that this is commonly how the game is played at these like YCS events in Japan. And so they were like, oh, Master Duel will just be the same way. And if you've played enough Master Duel, it kind of starts to not be that big of a surprise.
You kind of get used to it, huh?
I think that with deck building, it's probably a little bit more, I got to be able to go first or second because I'm only going to get one game and everything's riding on it. So main deck a lot of hand traps or main deck some board breakers and just because there's no side deck. I mean, you know, you just run what you think will help you win in turn two and hope that you open with your starters when you go first.
Heck, even in Western Yu-Gi-Oh, we still tend to main deck a lot of hand traps and board breakers depending on what strategy you want to go to, and we just side deck even more of them.
Yeah, so cool, a very exciting event. I would love to have attended this sort of thing. It just sounds like it's a lot of fun. The playmat.
Well, remember, you're not a Japanese national, so.
Look at this playmat that they got for Top 64.
Ooh,
it's
that
really
Slifer
cool.
Is crazy.
Slifer the Sky Dragon.
I wonder if it says Slifer in the kanji.
I don't
Wouldn't
know
that
what the
be
kanji
sick?
says. There's also matching sleeves that they could get as well.
Someone's gonna get that as a tattoo.
Yeah, so very cool. I hope that like they put maybe this much effort into our Yu-Gi-Oh! Worlds this year in America.
How would anyone know? We can't go.
Yeah, we won't be able to go anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter, huh? Cool. So I just thought I'd point that out. Thought it was kind of a cool bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff. In other news, I call it news. First kind of week of legality of Legacy of Destruction.
That's right. First League of LEDE.
Regionals and things like that. Have you kept up at all with any of the regional results?
I have been paying attention just because I wanted to see the fall of Snake Eyes and the rise of Tenpai. And sadly, neither of those things really came to fruition. I mean, Snake Eyes still won the majority of events that I saw and had the vast majority of tops, whether they're pure or with Fire Kings.
Yeah.
But then, and Tenpai, they got some spots. They got some spots. It's not the deck isn't a flop.
It's just not like as huge as it ended up maybe being in Japan.
Yeah, it's not that huge yet. I mean, they're still waiting on more support, and we're gonna get in their ban list at some point that hits Snake Eyes again.
Yeah, I assume so. I mean, I was looking into it, and it seemed like there was like a regional that was kind of near us that was in Fort Worth, and there were like 6 topping Snake Eye decks. So, one Yubel deck.
Let's go Yubel.
And like a branded thing. So it seems like Senpai has not managed to like pierce too much consistently. I think players might have been more prepared for it. I'm not really sure.
I mean, it might just be one of those strategies where it might take more than just 1 week before you can pilot a 10 pie deck consistently to like top YCSs, or in this case regionals.
Yeah, I could see that. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Also, we have been opening a little bit more Legacy of Destruction ourselves.
No, let's be honest. I think we opened too much.
Yeah, probably too much. I know people aren't super into this Legacy of Destruction set. You could say.
Sure am, or was.
You happen to be.
I'm satisfied now.
Yeah, you've gotten your stuff. I mean, it's interesting, right? This is a set that has a few interesting, like, neat little cards, but there's nothing that feels...
There's no meta-defining card in this set.
Yeah, there's not like a meta-defining staple. There is a strong new meta deck in, like, Tenpai or whatever. I was calling it Senpai Dragons, but Tenpai Dragons. And... yeah, I don't know. I mean, so the funny thing that I was like bringing that up for was that we both opened up
Magicians of Bonds and Unity.
Yeah, Magicians of Bonds and Unity. Yeah.
Yeah.
QCR.
So Paul and I were we were in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And we were just kind of going from shop to shop, desperately searching for Yu-Gi-Oh. We couldn't find it. We could find it in some places, but we could never find like organized Yu-Gi-Oh. It was just
it's tough to find a tournament.
We did find some Yu-Gi-Oh product, and I was so Yu-Gi-Oh starved. I think I bought a box at every place we went to.
Yeah, you bought a bunch of boxes. I bought a couple as well, or I bought at least one box.
And I bought 2. We only found, I think, 2 shops that had Yu-Gi-Oh products.
Yeah, it was cool. We both opened Bonds and Unity Magicians.
So those shops are bereft of Magicians.
Yeah, if anybody wants to trade for a different color one, that would be cool.
Yeah, we have 1 extra.
Yeah, I know they were doing the Bonds and Unity Magicians for the last 4 sets, and like each one has a different background color. So in theory, it could be kind of neat to like collect all 4 of them. Although I will be completely honest, I'm not super drawn to the card.
I don't have enough of an attachment to justify getting the set. I have one.
I was looking up the price of them just because I was curious, and they're about like 70 to $80 each. That's from Duelist Nexus, Age of Overlord, Phantom Nightmare, and finally Legacy
I feel like
Destruction.
a set of them probably, I mean...
You know what I think they should have done? They should have done one of 2 things.
What?
Because right now it's like, okay, it's the same card with a different background on it in each set.
Yep, and you can totally tell the difference.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell when you see the QCR foiling and can barely tell what the background color is. I think that it would have been cool if they were either like a quartet of magicians, like
are there different magicians in each one?
Different magicians in each one, and they're striking a different pose, and like they have a different color associated. That'd be neat. Or I guess Yu-Gi-Oh can't do this because it doesn't have really like full art cards, but making like a complete picture, like where they complete a picture when they're all like kind of placed near each other or something. A lot of games like Vanguard, Pokemon does that.
Combined arts.
So that would have been neat. I think as it is now, I have a tough time really getting super excited over them. But
like as far as collecting, it did make me want to collect something, but it wasn't them.
Yeah,
I wanted to get every iteration of like the Master and Apprentice pair that Yu-Gi-Oh seems to keep making over and over again. So I wanted to get like a Dark Magician and a Dark Magician Girl, you know, the original first editions. Then I want to get the Magi Magician Girl and the the artwork, the movie Dark Magician artwork, because they're a pair. Then I want to get the Apprentice Illusion Magician and I can't say his name. The
Nightmare Magician?
No, the Dark Magician, but he's Mahad.
Palladium
Oracle.
Yeah, you want to get all their pairs.
And then cool. Last but not least will be Nightmare Magician and Nightmare Apprentice.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, and I guess Magicians of Bond Unity.
Yeah, if that counts.
It counts, I guess.
So cool. Other than that, I mean, since we've opened so much of it, I feel like we've kind of gotten all the cards we needed. Like I said in a previous pod, I only really was looking for cards for my Voiceless Voice deck, which I have now completed and played a little bit more. It's neat. It turns out I was disappointed to find out that most people don't even run the new cards. The 2 new Voiceless Voice cards that came in the set aren't commonly run in like most of the competitive builds.
I think because if you're trying to top a YCS, it's better to have hand traps like Nibiru and stuff than those recovery cards. Because if you're in tournament and you're using those,
yeah, the spell's a sort of more of a recovery card, and the new Ritual Monster doesn't really have like a negate or anything. I think she's cool. I mean, like she draws 2, pitches 1 when she comes out, and like she can pull a card out of your opponent's hand and stuff. And her other effect like revives a light or brings a light monster back to your hand during your opponent's end phase. But I think that people just find that's underwhelming in a tournament setting. Nowadays, you'd rather just have Skull Guardian. He's big and he negates.
Like, if you're not ripping the whole hand, ripping one card isn't that meaningful.
Particularly when it's only an attack declaration and not like a proactive thing. So, yeah, that's pretty much been my experience with it. No, you've been building a lot.
Yeah, so Shining Sarcophagus has a bunch of secret and ultra rare slots. And at this point, I've pulled pretty much everything. I hadn't pulled the Gandora G, Dragon of Destruction. We pulled no copies of him, which is weird because we usually do well pulling cover cards.
Yeah.
This time that did not happen. While I was glad that they all got their higher rarities, it made it a bit of a pain to pull them all. The bright side is they're not considered good in the slightest, so they're all quite cheap.
Yeah, the prices have kind of been plummeting on that stuff, so it's easy to get it. I mean, it's cool, though, if you want to build like a Yugi deck. I think people were concerned because it was like, oh, I want to build this Yugi deck, but all the cards are secrets. But at this point, I mean, if you want to buy the singles, it feels like they're not going to be too hard to get.
At the end of the day, tournament demand will set the prices.
Yeah, that one red Tenpai dragon is...
you mean Tenpai Pydra, the super?
Yeah, it's like $20. So.
Yeah, it's like $20.
It's a super.
Purely, that's called tournament demand, you know? Yeah. Then, what else? So then, Yubel got its new cards, the updated Grave Squirmer and Nightmare Throne.
Yeah, Nightmare Throne being a really big one.
Nightmare Throne being like either the most expensive card of the set or second most expensive. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
either way,
bounces around.
Both cards are crazy good for the Yubel deck. We're still waiting on that one OCG promo card. No idea how we're getting that. It might be a Battles of Legend thing. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's Yubel. It got a little bit extra.
I pulled one copy of the Nightmare Apprentice for my Illusion pile.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to that deck. It's going to be a Chimera base. And then all the extra space will be illusions.
Stuff. Yeah.
Just nonsense.
You just want to do just the illusion type deck.
Chaos.
Yeah, the illusion type deck.
There's the guy who flips and draws you a card, but because it's an illusion, he can never be destroyed by battle.
I mean, I think that the one I'm most interested in is Nightmare Apprentice because she kind of brings the deck together.
She actually helps because Chimera will do its thing, right?
Yeah.
But the other illusions have almost no cohesion between each other. But she says I can grab whichever ones we need and help you, and I can summon she'll help you build a strategy around them.
Yeah. That's a cool one. And then she worked with Nightmare Magician. So now he's actually a consistent threat. Because I was like, how's the deck supposed to get to him? But now there's a way to.
Yeah, you can get to him.
They have their Mirror Force as well.
Yeah, they have a funky little Mirror Force. It will not wipe your opponent's board, but it will snatch one of your illusions, I think, from the grave or banish, somewhere like that. Or banishment.
Did you get the new Diabells?
Oh, yeah, I got one copy of Diabells. I thought about getting more, but it's hard to actually justify getting more than one copy of it.
Yeah. Diabell Star was like kind of the center of attention. Diabells, not so much so.
Because even Diabell Star doesn't feel like a 3 of in most cases, maybe a 2 of. Diabells feels like it's even harder to justify more than one copy of. I don't know if we'll ever see a day where we're like, I need 3 of these.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like the hottest new engine on the block. It's a new way to shut out Pendulums, though.
Yeah.
You know, Konami always likes to give Pendulum the middle finger in this game.
I am throwing her in my illusion pile, too, because she is an illusion.
She is an illusion.
All of her traps work with high-level illusions as well. So there's a bunch of those in that set.
Yeah. And still not done. I know you're doing Light Sworn. You're doing Ancient Gear.
Light Sworn, Ancient Gear. The Ancient Gear deck is built. It's not exactly what I want, but I have to keep playing with it more. Maybe I think it'll come together as I keep playing it.
Yeah, pretty cool. I don't think there's been too much else. There's been like some minor things. Master Duel started like its new season, of course. There's a new event that they've announced, which is the Double Summon event. So, there's like the skill drain one. But
so now you can summon twice. Normal summon twice.
There's like, an event where you'll just be able to normal summon twice. I thought that was kind of a neat concept for an event. It's cool to see Master Duel just trying out these different little formats. Like, again, it's one of those things where these are difficult to implement into the TCG.
Yeah.
Like, there's like a skill drain event because like everyone have to have a copy of skill drain, I guess, and like put it on their field. But with like double summon's always in place, you can just mechanically implement that rule. And I think that's really cool.
You know what deck I would like to have like a double summon in? And it's probably too old for it to actually work anymore, but Bujins.
Bujin could be cool.
Because it always felt like they played behind their normal summon, and they have all these monsters, but they only have one normal summon.
If you want something really, really old school, imagine like gadgets with that. It's a double summon. I mean, because people ran double summon in early gadget builds, I remember.
I used to run Ultimate Offering in mine.
Yeah, so that was a thing. Other little minor Yu-Gi-Oh things. We got an announcement of Crossover Breakers, which is looking like that's the next deck builder set.
3 more archetypes.
Yeah, one of those triple archetype decks, though we don't know.
2 more disappointments and 1 promising one.
Well, they've been improving them lately. Like, these days, they tend to kind of be all quite good. I remember the Amazing Defenders, all 3 of those decks ended up being pretty good. But maybe that's still another exception to the rule, because Wild Survivors only really had Vanquish Soul is kind of the only one that ended up doing much. And then Valiant Smashers, Centurions are okay, and the other 2 seem like they weren't able to do too much. I've heard like people say Valmonica might be getting there.
Might be a sleeper.
Getting there, yeah. And Mementos have been just getting more support, so they might all come
I mean, they're
together.
all going to get more support. You didn't say anything positive about them.
Yeah, I don't know. It might come together. I mean, I know somebody who plays the Memento deck, and they're optimistic about it. So I'll trust the optimism. And
So, what do you think is going to be this time? Robots, dragons, and waifus?
What combination of those things?
Do you think it'll be robots, waifus, and dragons?
So here's the thing. I think it'll definitely be at least 2 of those 3 things. There's a third category, though, that they have been doing lately that like a lot of people don't talk about, which is like Eldritch Horror. Everything, each one, because like Runic, Eldritch itself.
I mean, I don't think Runic are very
like there's other, just these monsters. Like they tend to kind of do a few that are like they just look a little insane, like a little crazy. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe looking too far into it, but
I mean, but we'll see. We will see. I still can't imagine there not being robots, though.
Yeah, there's definitely got to be some mechanical monstrosities, some mechanical menace. And I think that's like kind of the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. I mean, there've been like more...
Duel Links added Dennis from Arc 5 to the game. He used Perform Ages. That's all I had.
Cool. Yeah, no, hey, listen, that is information. Okay? That is information. So I think if we haven't missed anything, people will probably let us know. If we did, we'll maybe just cover it next week. But that's cool. I saw one other thing that's like not news, but it was just a neat thread on Reddit where somebody was just asking people, why do you play Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, why do you play? Just, plain and simple. And if I can pull it up here, I thought that some of the answers were nice. It was just people sort of being like, hey, here's why I play. Like some people were like, I don't play to play the game, I play just to collect. Or some people were like, I play because I like the rapid pace at which like Yu-Gi-Oh changes and evolves and things like that. So I thought that was kind of cool.
You want to know why I play?
Why do you play?
I play because I did a line of 4Kids marketing as a child, and I've been high ever since.
Honestly, like same. That's a question I want. Like people actually, you can leave in the comments if you guys want. It's like, why do you play Yu-Gi-Oh? Because I mean, I'm one of those people who, this is maybe a little bit dark to bring up. I feel like I like teeter on the edge a lot. Like I'm one of those people who I'm really, in a lot of ways, disillusioned with the modern game. But I'm also not like entirely like full on Yu-Gi boomer, and that like I don't really want to go back to playground Yu-Gi-Oh per se. But there's like this weird middle ground I'd like to see, and like I realize that that's not really ever going to happen. But I still love Yu-Gi-Oh so much. Like I still love, just the cards, the lore, the style. I like how fun it can be when you're like, in it and stuff. So.
I was invited by Pegasus, so
yeah, you got the VHS. You were very lucky. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was just kind of a neat thing. I wanted to open the article, but it's a Reddit thread, which doesn't always play nice with
the app,
with our Pocket app. Okay, wait, I've got it. It's here. I'm gonna read some top answers. Someone said that I barely play, but I deck build a lot.
I do deck build.
It's in making the battle plan, not execution, that I find my joy. That's what somebody said. Somebody also said sunk cost fallacy. So
I love that's just the answer. Sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah, someone says most creative card art and lore in any media ever. I thought that was kind of cool.
Debatable, but I'll take it.
I think it's there if Konami would be more willing to like explain it.
They
like,
should
show it to.
It does people. Feel like they're leaving something on the table, designing these monsters and having lore in the art, but then never making any more of that. I guess now we have those manga series, which I haven't kept up with at all.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to. They don't release them here in the States.
I gotta go check it out because I'm pretty sure the what were those spellcasters called? The ones with
the White Witches,
Crowley and what were they called? Magistus. I think the Magistus one has started, so I need to check that out.
Someone says to turn, skip, and play solitaire with myself. Someone says I just collect and look at them from time to time.
Honestly, same.
Yeah, so it just kind of depends. Some people, will tell you that if you are not finding something to enjoy in this game, it might be good to take a break, or dare I say, even quit. But I think that it is important, and I've mentioned this a lot. Don't just look to Konami for your enjoyment of this game.
You got to make your own fun.
I think you got to kind of make your own fun, find your own people, do your own thing. It doesn't have to
make your own formats.
Yeah, make your own formats. It doesn't have to be like playing the game. It can be anything. I think that's all the Yu-Gi-Oh though.
Yeah, that's all I can think of.
Cool. Okay. Well, time to get into a myriad of stories. There is one that I saw and I could not get. Like, there's a card game one, but I couldn't get the information I needed on it. So maybe if somebody in the chat or like comments wants to explain this, there's apparently a bit of controversy with Pokemon TCG Worlds qualification. It's something about like how you get the points or where you can get the points, whether it's like a local thing or a regional thing or something. But I can't comment on it any more than that because I saw, like that problem on Twitter where like everyone's talking about something, but you can't find the source of like, okay, what happened? You know what I mean? So like I was seeing on Twitter, it's like people are like, I can't believe Pokemon's doing this, or it's like, oh, well, next year they need to just do this instead, or it's not blah, blah, blah. Like people are arguing and all this, but it's like, okay, what happened?
Couldn't tell
like,
you.
Please just someone tell me. So if someone can at least explain that, if there's even an issue at all.
We have a fairly competitive Pokemon locals. I could always ask our guys about it. Because I know every time I always know when their season restarts. Because like you won't see them for very often around the shop. But when that season restarts, all of a sudden all the Pokemon players are here grinding. They are grinding, they are sweating, and then the moment they hit their point total for like I guess national qualifiers, gone. They sit, they grind, they hit the points, and they go. They go back to like working or having a family.
I heard that I vaguely heard something about like local leagues, like being able to maybe get your invite points from local leagues, but that was maybe changed somehow.
They might have taken away the ability to get points from your locals, because I do think that people have been I'm not sure because I'm not 100% sure how it works, but I think people have been farming their locals to get points to go to these larger tournaments, but local scenes can have a very strong mix of skilled and unskilled players. So I think for some people, their locals is just an easy farm for points, and maybe they change that. Maybe. This is purely conjecture. Paul has approached me with a story that I have not read. I'm trying my best.
Yeah, I would love to know, but I just can't. Anyways, got anything?
Yeah, so Magic the Gathering card sells for record-breaking $3 million, and fans do not believe it.
What card sold for this much? Another Black Lotus, I assume?
Actually, yes, you're 110% right. So you don't have to have ever played Magic the Gathering to be familiar with this mythical Black Lotus, a powerful card from the game's first set that now routinely fetches eye-popping amounts in the collectible market. But no Black Lotus, no matter how pristine or rare, has ever sold for $3 million. It's such a ridiculous amount that some fans can't even believe. So it's an alpha Black Lotus graded by CGC Cards. It fetched a jaw-dropping $3 million, making it the highest priced Magic the Gathering card ever sold. Its sky-high price demonstrates the high-value collectors place on CGC's cards pristine 10 grade. So this is a CGC social media post. Hey, look, we're the best grader. Look how much our cards sell for. When While an incredible marketing opportunity for CGC, which has been making a name for itself in the world of vintage video game collecting, the card buyers says the transaction is completely legit. It's really hard to price these high-end cards, but I feel like $3 million is about right, Instagram user Benjamin B told Kotaku in a DM. The buyer, whose collection includes sought-after grails from other card games like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon, added, "Maybe I did overpay a bit, but I'm not buying to flip it. In the long run, it should do just fine." And there's actually a picture of like some of this guy's collection. Here you go, Paul. He actually has quite a few highly sought after.
Oh, I see a Blue Eyes.
10s.
A grade 10 LOB Blue Eyes with a broken neck.
Broke neck
Charizard
dragon
as well. Several starter Pokemon, in fact. Cool. Okay, so this is like a full on collector guy. Like he collects.
Yeah, he
He's
collects.
Not here to spin these cards. Respect then. I mean, I don't have like any particularly strong thoughts on like Magic the Gathering per se. Like just it's cards. I don't know too much about their history. But I just have a lot of respect for anybody who is like truly collecting to collect.
Right.
You know?
But some people don't think it's quite as cut and dry.
Oh, what are the suspicions?
There's speculation that it's part of a concerted effort to inflate the marketplace value or a stunt to promote CGC. It used to be considered impressive when a Black Lotus fetched over $30,000 at auction. In the past few years, however, amidst a COVID-fueled boom in collectibles and the growing reputation of certain specialty grading houses, the 1993 cards have gone for north of $500,000. The rapper Post Malone famously bought an artist-signed one for over $800,000. Prior to this $3 million sale, the record price for an MTG card was $2 million, and that was how much Post Malone paid for the One Ring, which is a single print, one-of-a-kind Lord of the Rings crossover card. So
people think like it's a conspiracy or something?
Some type of a conspiracy or stunt.
What do you think?
I mean, why? I do have to question, why pay $3 million for a card no one else seemingly has paid $1 million for? That seems a little fishy, doesn't it? Is CGC so well respected you're willing to pay like more than double what the next guy was willing to pay?
Yeah, that's true.
Suspicious. And then it's kind of weird. You know, when we buy something, if we overpay, we feel horrible. Oh no, I overpaid. But it's kind of funny. This guy paid $3 million for that Black Lotus, and you could say he overpaid, but doesn't that now mark the new price of a Black Lotus of that grade in addition?
Yeah, I guess that's what you're saying.
So in a weird way, he created value.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know what I think, because part of me is like, yeah, that could be the case, but I'm also starting to realize that maybe it's getting a little too meta with it, but I'm starting to kind of, I think maybe like if you stay like online too often, I've noticed there's this new thing where like we just doubt everything and we assume the worst intentions of everything and everyone.
You're the one that showed me everything on Reddit was a lie.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you know, but like I guess what I mean in this case is that if that's the case and that's like kind of what he's doing, well, that sucks. But also, like, what if it isn't? And now we're all just kind of assuming it is, and we're like smearing just the practice of really even enjoying owning like a rare thing. I don't know. I guess like if he is doing that, how many people does that even really affect?
It only affects people at this highest level. I mean, maybe it pushes that version of Black Lotus outside of your like reach. If you're maybe this Magic Gathering collector, you don't have $1 million, but you aspire to one day owning a Black Lotus, and these collectors are paying higher and higher prices for it, making it seem even more impossible for you to get one.
Yeah, that's troubling. Although I don't know that there's like a load of people in that category, but I suppose for those people, it is still.
It's weird though, because Black Lotus and many like cards in this card gaming space, they're appreciating at a rate that makes no sense.
It's kind of unnatural, yeah.
While in the Yu-Gi-Oh side, it feels like cards are depreciating.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't kept up too much with like what the Yu-Gi-Oh pricing stuff is these days. Like what, you know, say a LLB Blue Eyes goes for or something. But Do we know any more about this person's background?
I mean, you saw.
We know that they have a collection. So see, that's the thing. If they have a collection, I'm inclined to think like they do at least collect these cards. It's not like kind of a random one-off weird guy out of nowhere who has no other cards.
So that's what makes it feels like less of a stunt by CGC. But at the same time, because he's such a collector, then maybe he's used to the practice of inflating the value of his own cards just by buying them for more.
Interesting.
You never know. At the end of the day, this sale is locked in. So Black Lotus, at least this edition of Black Lotus has sold for $3 million, and that's just a fact now.
Yeah, it's just how
it's a matter of like the circumstances.
We gotta live with it, don't we?
Actually, well, I don't, because I'm never buying.
That's what I was saying. Like, I don't know that I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's good to. If he did that, that's wrong. But also, like, it's not. I will not ever be buying this card. So
I had a jeweled Lotus that was worth like $130, something like that.
Oh, I never heard of that. Is that like a Magic card?
Yeah, it was in Commander Masters. It was like the cover card.
So speaking of that, actually, I have been playing a lot of Magic the Gathering lately.
Oh.
And this isn't a news story. I just wanted to share it with the pod. Today actually, or at least today when we're recording this, I posted the photo that we took with the professor. We did go to the professor, that is Tolarian Community College, to do a collaboration where we played some Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, we shot some videos.
And we have some other videos as well that will all be coming out on the main channel. Stay tuned. But in anticipation of that, I've had to play a lot of Magic the Gathering over the past couple weeks. And
2 days, but it's okay.
A lot in the last few days, but some in the weeks leading up to it. And it's been fun, and I feel like I kind of it all clicked for me now. Mm-hmm.
What was your epiphany?
Yeah, well, so my epiphany with Magic is basically that, I see what people mean when they say pretty much every card game is a derivative of Magic the Gathering. Like, that base kind of, mana and land system, the, just costs to play cards, and, just that sort of thing. A lot of games do feel like they are in some way derivative of Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. And you can see its, influence in One Piece. You can see its influence in Digimon, Vanguard, a lot of different card games that have come and gone over the years. Pokemon, obviously. And it actually sort of cemented to me that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the only game that feels like it's really and truly been able to, escape the Magic the Gathering influence and become its own thing. Now, that thing, it's up to you whether you think it's a good or bad thing what Yu-Gi-Oh's become, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very independent from Magic. There is not really a resource system or lands. I think the closest Yu-Gi-Oh! Has to that today is honestly the hard ones per turn. That's the closest you get to really a resource system, and that's really saying something. It
was a straight up limitation, not even a resource.
Yeah. But I mean, with the way that some cards function, that might as well, that's the closest you get.
I look at our hard once per turn kind of like a summoning sickness kind of mechanic. It's a general thing that exists.
So that you don't get so out of hand. Yeah, and so I thought that was kind of a cool thing. I mean, I see how other games were inspired by Magic. I see how Yu-Gi-Oh! Early on was inspired by Magic, and now feels especially...
It's just different. Yu-Gi-Oh's Yu-Gi-Oh!
Differentiated from Magic. And Magic is fun. It's cool.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I like it. I've mostly just been playing Commander, but I see the appeal. It's a lot more chill to play Commander. I assume that that's obviously based on the pod that you get, who you're playing with, but it feels a little bit more relaxed. It feels like you can kind of just sit back and let the game just happen, and whatever happens. You don't have to pay. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you have to really walk on eggshells and pay a very close attention to what your opponent's doing, what you're doing, exactly how chains are resolving and stuff. Whereas with Magic, I kind of am just I'll just let it happen.
I think that happens a bit in the reverse for Magic. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you have to be locked in from on turn 1 for you and your opponent. You have to be just dialed in, ready to make every chain fall your way, bait the things you need to bait, set up your board how you need to set it up
these really
perfectly. But the first turns in Commander, or really any Magic the Gathering game, is I play my land and I pass, or I play my land, I tap it from some very cheap thing and I pass. There's nothing. Yeah, there's not a lot happening.
Actually, that's one thing I noticed too, is Magic starts simple, but actually gets more complex as the game goes on. Whereas Yu-Gi-Oh typically gets more simplified and scrappy as the game goes on. So if a Yu-Gi-Oh duel ever hits turn 10 or something, it's probably both players have...
You're top decking.
There's barely anything. You're kind of just slugging it out with some monster that's run out of targets and just has 1500 attack. And Incredible Ecclesia can't summon anything else, so she's just having to swing, right? And that's like it, or whatever you're top decking. Whereas with Magic, it's like at that point everyone's got like 9-10 lands in play, and
they can play any card they draw.
There's like a billion tokens, a billion artifacts, a billion equipments, and like this card, when you cast this, it summons this, and then it does this, and it scries this many, and it's like late game in Magic is actually way too much to keep up with. At least, for me, I'm obviously new to it. So like you're in a 4-person pod, and it's like, okay, what all protections does this have? And like, what's this do? This has Death Touch, and this has whatever.
I feel like when you're playing Commander in like in a more casual sense, it's like more of it's a cooperative game where everyone's just trying to keep up with everything. And it's like, all right, look, you keep track of your triggers, you keep track of yours, and I'll keep track of mine. And if we're all doing that, we won't miss anything.
Yeah, it's very much like that.
And then we still have a ruling snafu.
Yeah, it's very much like that. I think Magic plays it kind of fast and loose with like rulings and stuff as well. Like not rulings, but it's just like, the fact that the stack system or whatever, it always feels like, oh, I'm just going to kind of stack this before you do that. And in Yu-Gi-Oh, you would never. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, you don't really get to just sort of say like, oh, well, like I'm just going to kind of do, like everything's very specific in when it can be used or what the kind of ideal way to use it is. Whereas in Magic, it feels like that's less so. It's
just that the stack looks a lot like a chain, but it resolves differently than a chain, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's strange like that. But I mean, I like it. It's a good time.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I think people will enjoy the videos that they will eventually get to see. But for now, I mean, I think I'd like to build a commander deck for myself.
Oh, yeah?
Some fun. Sling some spells.
So you're not just going to wait for the Final Fantasy collaboration?
I'll probably wait for that. Yeah, that'll be what probably... I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that Magic's collabs and stuff are cool, and it's only just a matter of time till like they get to one that interests you. So for me, that's probably Final Fantasy. I'm not that interested in like learning the current lore of it.
There's a lot.
I did get to ask some people what they thought of Loot.
Loot, the keeper.
Yeah, Loot.
Or the key to everything.
The key to everything or whatever. Actually, I asked a lot of different like shop owners and stuff as we were going to different card shops and things. I was asking like, shop owners and employees and stuff and like what they thought of, things like Universes Beyond, things like Secret Layers, things like, the design of Loot, all this stuff that we've talked about in the podcast and just had to kind of like guess at. I was like, okay, I'm going to now actually ask Magic the Gathering like people, what do they think? And the general consensus that I got was that most people aren't huge fans of Universes Beyond as it relates to Magic in general. They seem to think that this many crossovers has sort of diluted a lot of the game's identity. Mm-hmm. But most people do have the one that gets them.
I have one that's the exception.
Yeah. And there are exceptions. Typically Lord of the Rings. It was the best-selling Magic product ever. But also, for some people, it's been this Fallout one. That's been like kind of a big one that got them. And even in one case, there was a person who was like, oh, like my friend loved Doctor Who and that did it for them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was just kind of a cool thing, getting those opinions from those people who have played for a while and really have more of a vested interest. Like for me, it's like I don't play Magic, so my opinions can only go so far.
Yeah, and they don't matter either.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, they don't. Like I don't feel that my opinions mean anything. It's like if I'm not playing the game, why,
no, I learned one thing I've learned on the internet is your opinion's valid no matter how much or little or involved or not involved you are with the subject.
Whew. I don't want to get into that. Maybe I do.
I mean, well, you're gonna get into it at some point during this pod because one of my stories will connect to it.
Yeah, there's a few. We'll see if that incoming rant unveils itself within the next little hour or so. Okay. Anywho, well, that was a cool Magic story you had there.
Oh, that was a while ago.
Yeah, that was. You got anything else you want me to?
I only had the one card game story, sadly.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, we haven't talked about Marvel too much recently on this podcast.
Like Marvel or the MCU?
Like the MCU.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we haven't talked too much about that. Have you been missing your Marvel news?
No.
Are you upset that we haven't gotten to dissect the MCU and its direction and what's going to happen?
Honestly, it's been a nice break.
Well, listen. Break's over. Avengers Endgame directors say they don't believe in superhero fatigue and that the MCU's current problems are part of a, quote, generational divide.
Okay.
So, Recently, the MCU has been experiencing a wobble with their most recent movie, The Marvels, ending its box office run as the franchise's lowest-grossing film in history.
Pause. Wobble is an understatement, but okay, we'll continue.
Whilst last year's TV show Secret Invasion was panned by critics and audiences alike, earning low Rotten Tomatoes scores in both categories. But what's behind this trend? Have audience appetites altered? Has the quality of MCU shows and films hit a new low? Does it have something to do with one of Hollywood's favorite buzzwords right now? Superhero fatigue? While catching up with the director duo, the Russo brothers, at the Sands International Film Festival in St. Andrews, Scotland last week, we asked the pair what they make of the current state of the MCU, given that it hasn't been the same since they helmed arguably the high point of that universe, Avengers Endgame. So, before we get into their quotes, what do you think it is that's like Marvel's issue right now? And I'll share what I think it is.
I think Marvel's issue is they are not doing as good of a job with their works, with their TV shows or movies.
I think it's superhero fatigue. I know they're about to like give some quote that explains why they don't think it is. I think it's a lot of superhero fatigue. I don't think that's like the complete like encapsulation of it all. In fact, you know what? I take it back. I think it's not superhero fatigue. I think it's actually like Marvel property fatigue, where like new ones just got thrown out a lot, kind of in that 2019 to 2022-ish period, where it's like everybody gets a spin-off show, and you know there's a lot of movies where they don't feel like they're really moving anything forward. The homework problem piling up, where it's like you got to kind of know your Marvel homework to enjoy Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
But the thing is, like, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is pretty much the best thing they've put out in the last, like...
little bit.
Like, little while. Because, like, most of, like, the majority of their work is just not very good.
Not very... Yeah, so, I mean, that's what I think it is. So, anyways, let's hear what these guys have to say about it. As Joe Russo told Games Radar, he thinks that Marvel's current issues all come down to audiences changing, which in turn is due to a transformation in how the world now absorbs media. And it's not just affecting the MCU, too, in Hollywood, as he emphasized. So here's his quote. I think it's a reflection of the current state of everything. It's difficult right now. It's an interesting time. I think we're in a transitional period, and people don't quite know yet how they're going to receive stories moving forward or what kind of stories they're going to want. There's a big generational divide about how you consume media. There's a generation that's used to appointment viewing and going to a theater on a certain date to see something, but it's aging out. Meanwhile, the new generation are, I want it now, I want to process it now, then moving on to the next thing, which they process whilst doing two other things at the same time. You know, it's a very different moment in time than it's ever been. And so I think everyone, including Marvel, is experiencing the same thing, this transition. And I think that really is probably what's at play more than anything else.
I disagree.
I see what he is saying, but I don't know that that necessarily has a lot to do with Marvel right now.
Well, because if what he's saying is true, shouldn't Marvel's TV shows be performing better because you can watch them whenever you want to? Like,
yeah.
Because they're not. But I can tell you that Secret Invasion was a stinky dog pile.
So... because there's more, but I will say just for now, like I do think that the way people consume media has changed noticeably. I noticed that with video games, with music, with movies, of course, and shows where it's like things don't get a lot of time in the public zeitgeist. Stuff moves fast. You care about a game, then you don't. Like the moment that a few weeks kind of roll by, you just don't care. Like we're not talking about this anymore. And so things are moving pretty rapidly. I do like the point that he made about appointment viewing versus like now viewing, because that is a thing I hadn't really considered. Is like there was a period of time where like, you know, the group of friends got together and like we planned, okay, we're gonna go all see this movie on this date, like when it comes out it's gonna be like an experience that we're all kind of anticipating. We're gonna do it together.
Right.
Nowadays it's a little bit, that doesn't happen as much. Like a lot of times you just view stuff on streaming kind of on your own time, or you know, you don't pick out the content you're going to see. It's served to you, like, you know, your TikToks, your YouTube recommendeds. So while I don't think that that's necessarily related to what I think is like a decline in quality on the MCU side, I do think that at least the point he's raising is true. So that's so far that's kind of
I still disagree.
You disagree? Okay.
I think people are more than willing to adopt their movie viewing habits again. It's just Hollywood has been in shambles ever since the pandemic, and I have not seen people even drawn to Hollywood films the way they used to be. I just think Hollywood films are not doing a very good job of being what they once were. They want to blame the audiences. Oh, we're not coming out to theaters. Make something worth going to theaters for.
There have been a few things. It seems like people really, really enjoyed Dune.
Like
people really enjoyed Oppenheimer. And people really enjoyed like the Spider-Man one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Spider-Man one. There've been like movies that have done that. It's just that none of those movies have been Marvel.
And that's the thing, because Marvel isn't making as good of movies.
So I see what you're saying. So you feel that it's, despite what he says, it's a Marvel problem.
Yeah, I think Marvel is actively failing at becoming what they were.
Yeah. Okay. So I understand. So I agree with you. I think that what he's saying is valid. Like I think that the way that I find myself consuming media and a lot of us are consuming media has been changing.
Yes.
But I do think that cinema is not like a complete fail. Mm-hmm. There have been movies and shows that get people talking, and so in that way I do feel like it's the onus is on Marvel to make things worth going to see. Yes.
And I think the issue that Marvel was running into is actually all of the because people want to call it superhero fatigue. People want to say it's the audience's fault, but ultimately it's the way that the MCU works that is the problem. All of the actors they started out with are aging out. Their contracts are running out. They're tired. They want to do other things. But the MCU sold the people a promise of an everlasting universe. But what that universe was built on the backs of Captain America, Iron Man, the Hulk, these Avengers characters who, because they're real people, don't want to do these roles forever. And no, you can't use AI to copy their likeness.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tony Stark said in some interview recently that he wouldn't mind coming back to Iron Man.
But is Chris Evans going to do it too? Is Scarlett Johansson going to do it as well? If they pay him enough
money, they will.
Can they pay everybody enough money?
It sounds like Marvel wants to try.
They have to. They actually don't have a choice.
They want to try. They've been emphasizing how they will bring back anyone from the dead if they have to.
Because the issue with Marvel movies right now is right now we're using a lot of more niche, more tertiary characters. They're not bad by any stretch of the imagination.
But they're just not like.
But people don't know who they are. Shang-Chi came out, and I think Shang-Chi was a good movie. I enjoyed it. People didn't know who that was.
Well, here's what he continues. We have never collectively, globally, processed our conversation so intimately and quickly as we do now. I think that creates problems where we overprocess and don't care about context anymore. We communicate through memes and headlines with nobody reading past 2 sentences. That's true. So everything's 100 characters or less, or 10-second videos on social media you swipe through. I think that the 2-hour format, the structure that goes into making a movie, it's over a century old now and everything always transitions. So there's something happening again, and that form is repetitive. But it's hard to reinvent that form, and I think this next generation is looking for ways to tell their own stories that service their own sort of collective ADHD. So, what do we think of that?
It just sounds like a lot of what I'm hearing from a lot of directors and like these movie makers. Everybody wants to make it sound like, no, it's the times, it's the audience. It's not us. It couldn't be us.
Yeah. I think it's one of those cases where it's just a continuation of, I think what he's saying is like true. I just don't think that it relates much to like Secret Invasion sucked either way.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think Secret Invasion being good or bad had much to do with like TikTok or the headline culture. I don't think
did people not see the Marvels because they didn't feel like watching a 2-hour movie, or did they not see it because they didn't like Captain Marvel?
Same with like, Ant-Man. That was one that people didn't really like.
Yeah, and in Ant-Man's case, people tried to see it, then the reviews came out, and then everyone realized, oh, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't see this one.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think, like, what they're saying isn't untrue. I just don't think it relates to Marvel. And then the pair also agree they don't believe in the idea of superhero fatigue. with Anthony Russo pointing out that even if it was a problem, it's hardly a new one for cinema. As he explains, I think it's fatigue in general. The superhero fatigue question was around long before the work we were doing, so it's sort of an eternal complaint, like we always used to cite this back in our early days with superhero work. People used to complain about Westerns in the same way, but they lasted for decades and decades and decades. They were continually reinvented and brought to new heights as they went on. So, yeah, that's their feeling on superhero fatigue. They don't feel that it exists. Do you think that superhero fatigue exists?
I think for some people it does.
Does it exist for you?
No.
You don't think there's any?
Because I really do this.
Okay.
Like, there's a certain type of nerd out there where superhero fatigue can never exist. We can never get enough superheroes.
Yeah.
Like, when they make a new superhero, we're trying to find out everything we can about them.
You're that kind of nerd.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for me, I'm a little bit different because I'm not super into superheroes. I'm not super into superheroes. So for me, I can feel the fatigue of it, but I'm grateful that I did not actually watch enough Marvel for the superhero fatigue itself to sink in on me. Like, I feel that I would feel it. I think that I would feel superhero fatigue if I had been watching Marvel from 2008, because I am not that into superheroes. I've only really watched Marvel stuff for the last few years, and so as a result, I don't feel fatigued by any of it. Rather, I feel disappointed in, like, the more fillerish nature of the recent stuff. But that's not that I'm tired of seeing superheroes, because I like that fine. Like, it's acceptable to me. It's not like my absolute passion. Like, I didn't read Marvel comics growing up. But the superhero saving the day part
judging
is
from
fine.
Sales numbers, no one did.
Yeah. So it's like the superhero part is fine. I don't have like really any issues with it. I just think that some of like the Marvel tropes and stuff can have started to grate a hair on me. But it's not like superheroes that I'm tired of. I'm just tired of maybe like some of Marvel's approaches to.
I just think they're not doing a very good job. I mean, because you could argue, or there is an argument to be made that the DC movie I forget what it's called, the DCEU.
Yeah.
That failed because of fatigue. No, it failed because you weren't making very good works.
Yeah, their works weren't great.
And my example is this: the whole time the DCEU was out, they were releasing these direct-to-video animated DC movies that I loved each and every one of. They were entertaining. They were well received. They were well reviewed. I showed them to my family, and we all had a great time with them, despite them failing left and right with the Justice League. And I can say the same thing is true for the MCU, because X-Men 97 is out. We had Across the Spider-Verse, or was that Beyond the Spider-Verse? Beyond the Spider-Verse. Like, these are two Marvel properties that have, like, X-Men 97 is doing great, and that did great. And the whole time, we're still not watching as many MCU movies.
Yeah, I've heard great things about X-Men 97. So, yeah. Well, that's what these guys think about it. They did.
They're the professionals, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have to kind of be optimistic about it, I suppose.
I think it's in their contracts.
I will give them this, though. Even doing this sort of interview, I have to give them some credit, because they could very well just not.
I mean, to some degree, I think they practiced their responses here. They already knew what they were going to say before the question was even going to be asked.
Yeah. I mean, but still, like, a lot of, higher ups and execs just simply I'm just not taking this interview, because, like, there's kind of that whole admit no weakness approach to things. Mm-hmm. So here, at least they're sort of saying that, like, yeah, we know that this stuff isn't doing as well. Their rationale for why it's not doing well is different than what most people think the rationale is. So, of course, yeah, they have to say, oh, it's not our fault. It's just the kids are watching different stuff now.
And the Russo brothers, I don't know, they haven't really been involved with Marvel since Endgame. I wonder what they're doing. I
guess they're involved in some way. They wouldn't be doing this interview if they weren't.
I mean, some people just will go out and seek out the past directors. Sometimes they want to hear them throw a little barb at their old studio's way.
Yeah, so they did also give a quote about AI.
Okay.
And its use in movies. In addition to the above, another issue in the industry that is currently being faced is AI, with many questions being asked about what role it will play going forward. News stories, such as horror movie Late Night with the Devil using AI to create some images for the film, have attracted controversy, and that's only one example in an ever-growing list. So what do the Russo brothers make of the current use of AI in Hollywood, and what do they see the future of it being? For Joe Russo, it's all about who exactly is using it, as he explains. We're always afraid of change, but we always end up on the other side of it. And you can't stop AI. It's here and it's moving at a pace of weeks, not months or years. When we were at the festival last year and had a conversation about AI, it was somewhat controversial, but there were no real stories about ChatGPT, etc. at that time, and no Sora being the thing that makes videos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can make AI-generated full videos. They look pretty good, so they say. So it's going to move exponentially fast. The trick, and the most important part of it, is getting in front of it, not being afraid of it, understanding it, and controlling it. Because if we lose control of the narrative, there are corporate entities who are going to be less concerned with the artist's role in the future of media than artists standing up for themselves and protecting themselves. I think that's the most important line in the sand to draw. Let's keep humans who control this stuff moving forward. Agreeing with his brother, Anthony Russo then adds he sees it in a similar way to how other new technologies were viewed in the past. As he concluded, our whole approach to it is, how do you use this as a creative tool? In the same way the iPhone is used as a creative tool. That was a new piece of technology that allowed people to communicate in ways they never could before. Steven Soderbergh shot a whole movie on it, 2018's Unsane. It's the same with CG or Avid or every other piece of technology. So that's our intersection point with it. So that's what they have to say. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree. They're in a more complex and more deeply rooted in experience way. They just said keep AI as a tool.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this is their way of saying, yeah, we're going to use that shit. We're going to use that shit. But they are at least sort of trying to take the high road, at least in this interview, of saying like, well, as long as the humans are kind of in control of it, then it's like okay.
Well, he hinted at the idea that if we don't find a use for this technology, the corporations will, and
which I think
will
is true.
Not be.
They won't be discerning.
Human friendly.
Yes, I think that's true, and I think that like I know a lot of people will probably see these sorts of interviews and be like, yeah, it's awful, right? Like AI sucks, and I don't like AI, but I do agree with the idea that like you gotta kind of get in control of it yourself, so that things don't get like just sloppy and messy, and it's just corporations just like, okay, we'll replace everything with AI. Let's replace it all.
You have to have a way of using it in a tangible way that can help create. Otherwise, corporations will just find the simplest way to plug it in, and usually that means
how many jobs
can we just cut out?
It's just like, okay, it's just going to animate everything. It's going to voice everything. It's going to write everything.
I mean, to a degree, I mean, he brought up CG, and that's actually an important point. CG took a lot of jobs away from people in practical effects and makeup.
Yeah,
because a lot of studios were like, "Well, we don't need to put makeup on them. We'll just have the nerds take care of it. Oh, we don't need these explosives experts and with their little smoke. No, we'll have the nerds handle it."
Yeah, I mean, and what's interesting, at least in the case of CG, is that CG meant that some jobs were lost, but also a lot were gained. Because being able to do like good CG and effects work is like its own industry.
But it is a completely different set of skills. So some people get left behind.
There was displacement. That is true. And I also think that these technologies will always be a little controversial. Like, are we going to embrace CG? How's it going to age? Things like that. I'm sure those are really big questions. AI is it's facing the same thing. I think the only difference with AI though is just that it is strictly like a generative thing, so there's still maybe less of a human touch to it. Though even that gets brushed up.
I was gonna say about AI is it's CG. We thought CG's uses were limitless, but AI is actually even more limitless than that. What the uses that we have for AI, we haven't even thought of all the uses yet. Right. And at some point, we'll be able to use the technology to find more uses for the technology, which is disturbing to think about.
Yeah, a little scary. Well, yeah, that was kind of our little MCU news. If you want something that feels a little bit bleak about the film industry or MCU stuff, there it is.
Well, I want to talk about gaming.
We can talk about a little gaming.
All right, then.
Talk about a little gaming.
So, you're familiar with the Arkham series of video games, huh, Paul?
I am.
And I imagine you're familiar with the fact that the Suicide Squad. I want to say squad so badly. The Suicide Squad Kills Justice League game was not what we were looking for.
It wasn't well received, I heard.
Well, now there is going to be a new Batman Arkham series game, but it's for a very specific group of people.
Okay.
You have to, 1, love Batman, and 2, own a Meta Quest 3.
Oh, they're making like an Arkham VR game?
That's right. So, Batman Arkham Shadow is a new entry in the beloved comic book Metroidvania beat-em-up series. I never heard of it considered as a Metroidvania, but that does make some sense. Though it's not what many players were probably hoping for. It's being made in VR and will be exclusive to the Meta Quest 3 headset, scheduled for release in late 2024.
I'm listening. I'm just actually undoing this camera so it doesn't turn off. You can continue.
Got it. The game is being developed by Camouflage, which made Iron Man VR and Oculus Studios. That's pretty much all we know about the surprise reveal at this point. A brief teaser trailer shows a lot of the Caped Crusader gliding through Gotham like in the previous games. No word yet on if the deluxe version will come with early access and a special Batman-themed barf bag. Wow, because of the motion sickness.
Rude. I mean, listen. You buying?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You have a Quest, so
on everything. Might as well, right?
Sounds exciting.
And if it can capture some of my love for the Arkham series, cool. But I think more importantly, I mean, it's another Batman game in VR, and I'll play that.
Yeah.
I think they made a previous Batman title. I don't think it's on this article. There was one, I think, for the PlayStation VR, the first one, I believe. And
that sounds familiar.
And I'm looking forward to it. VR needs more games, and Meta they're sticking to their bases. They're going 10 toes down. They want the Quest 3 to be.
They want it to penetrate.
They want it to be the industry standard headset. I know they must have paid a lot of money.
I think the R&D for that thing has been probably through the roof. I know I was reading some headline about Meta, doing another round of layoffs, like all the tech companies kind of
everyone's been doing it.
But they are really trying to kind of like double down on the VR stuff, double down on Meta AI and all that stuff as well. But I think that VR at least, this is a bit of a pivot in conversation. When do you think when, if ever, do you think VR becomes kind of a household thing? Like, what's it going to take?
So what
is it just a matter of time? Does the technology need to change in some way? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it's 2024. So what I would need to see now, look, we're actually approaching kind of a what I would call as the precipice or the abyss. VR technology either glides over this abyss or it falls into it, never to be seen again, or at least not in the form that we know it. I think most companies are reaching a point with VR that where they're like, this isn't working. And it hasn't been for a long time. People are not investing in this hardware the way we want them to. And then the software, while being upgraded, is nice. It's just, these headsets have been sold to us as gaming devices. There's not a lot of games for them. But they've been sold to companies as ways of helping them train their employees, or there's always practical uses for them, but there's still not wide adoption of this technology. Mm-hmm. So I think in the next 10 years, by 2034, either VR is everywhere or it's nowhere. Like, I think even Meta Quest.
So you think it's like at the tipping point? Mm-hmm. So what's it got to do to, what's got to change for VR to be? What has to change for VR to be accepted? Given where
we need the next step in our acceleration of hardware and technology. Chips have to get smaller. Batteries have to be able to have more capacity with a smaller form factor. Processing has to be faster than it's ever been before. Like, we need a complete upgrade of all of our technology, and that's all just to get the technology in these headsets at a price point that people are actually willing to adopt.
Yeah, it's so what's interesting, the way I kind of view that is you can kind of have one or the other. Like, you can either have a lot of little upgrades, or like a better price. So basically, the technology used in, say, the Meta Quest 3, which currently costs $500, maybe in a couple of years, that same thing could be offered at $300. But also, in another couple of years, the same thing could be offered at like $600 or $700, but it's got significantly better tech. Which is more important, I feel, is probably the lower price. I think lower price means more accessibility and like more kind of onboards more people. Mm-hmm. So even if the technology isn't like significantly better, I think that if more people can at least try it, then you're like in good shape. It's tricky though, because if you're in like Meta's position, it's like, do you go for innovation at a high cost product, or do you go for like a I don't know, what is the word for it? Like a product that is very blue ocean, like everybody can own one.
Yeah,
but maybe
there's a term for that.
There's like a term. It's like the tip of my tongue. And yeah, I think like it's probably price more so. I also think that size.
That actually might not be the case. If you look at the last time we had like a generational technology, we can say it's the iPhone. I mean, the iPhone had a fairly high price, but adoption rates for the iPhone went crazy.
Yeah. Maybe I also think a big part for VR is like, and the Quest is getting to addressing this. It's doing a pretty good job, I'd say. It's just got to keep going. It's like being smaller, lighter, more like cool looking to wear, I guess. It's kind of funny. I mean, Apple kind of nailed some of the cool factor with their Vision Pro. Like it looks
that weird eye thing it does, I don't like.
Yeah, that's not very cool. And it doesn't look very good in person, but like it's also $3,500. So, I mean, no matter how cool it maybe looks, that's just too much money. I think like with the Meta Quest, it's not that it looks like lame. It's just that like people truly want like VR and sunglasses at some point. Like I want to be able to just pop on like a little thin pair of glasses and everything's there. And obviously we do not have the battery tech. We don't have the computing tech. We do not have the heat dissipation tech or any like camera tech to fit into something that is literally like a pair of glasses.
Nope.
But that's kind of what the thing in 5 or 10 years has to look like for most people to want to probably use VR, would be my guess anyway.
So I have this concept in my brain for what this would have to be for like widespread adoption, but I'm pretty sure it's impossible. Instead of you wearing all the hardware on your head, you're actually just wearing a peripheral that allows you to see what's being projected out in the world around you. If the world was just set, if we had like an entire city was set up with these virtual reality kind of machines at different points within the city,
and they're just
where
projecting.
they would project like an interface that you can interface with if you have the right like glasses or something. You put them on.
Very
now you
sci-fi.
can see. Yeah, now you can actually see what's being projected just all around you, and you can interact with it. You're not wearing a computer on your head. The computer is just around you.
That reminds me a lot of, I wonder if it would be like a visor. Like I know it's kind of like weird and that might feel weirdly sci-fi, but like, I don't know, I think a visor could be cool.
I think people...
Like a really thin one.
People would, because people need a reason to adopt new technologies. And right now, it's kind of hard to buy in VR because what is the practical use for a VR headset?
Yeah, it also feels like what is the on-off is so different. Mm-hmm. Like when you have your headset on, you're kind of in this whole other world, but it's like it's like a state of being. Like I have the headset on, so like there's a certain set of things I cannot do now while I have this on my head. Like, you know, you're not really gonna like eat while you're using your Quest, right? No. Or you're not really gonna like take a shower while you're using your Quest, or you probably wouldn't wear your Quest like out on a run. But, you know, when it's off, like you have like a different life. And so I think that if you can converge, did you think of something?
There's no FOMO with virtual reality.
That's also true.
That was like that was the biggest like draw of the iPhone was FOMO.
Right, yeah.
Everyone's got this little screen. There's got to be like I want one too.
There's got to be a killer app. And there's not like a thing that you feel like you're missing out on. Cool.
Because the thing is, with VR headsets right now, because of the nature of them, no one goes anywhere with their VR headset. You leave it at home. Mm-hmm. No, so the non-VR havers never feel like they're missing out because they never see you with one.
Yeah, that kind of makes me think, you know, if you can, I say we, like it's like we're in charge of it. But I mean, if it kind of feels cool to have one, or like you feel envious looking at somebody who's got one on the plane or whatever, that could be a big part of it. Like someone watching a movie on their VR headset during a long flight, That's a pretty cool use case, and like maybe that could be a small sense of.
So
it's like an example I
I'm
think of.
glad you brought that up because on our recent flights back and forth, I considered bringing my VR headset with me. The issue I ran into was mostly just the inverse of FOMO. It was the fear of sticking out.
Yeah, you don't want people to.
I didn't want to be the one weird guy on the plane, like with this like thing on my head, and I'm like,
yeah,
like just looking. And for the most part, and you know, it's a personal thing, but you just look dumb sitting there.
I think that's where it gets back to that. Like it needs to kind of be like small and sleek and like easy to wear, where like you look kind of cool wearing it, but it also even if not cool, it just doesn't look so intrusive on your head. Like large headset and it's got like 3 cameras on it and stuff, as opposed to maybe like if it was just a pair of sunglasses, that wouldn't look like too bizarre, you know. So,
and maybe it could never be sunglasses per se, but
so you know what's interesting about that? Have you seen those like Meta Ray-Bans things?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Meta Ray-Bans.
They can film, like they have like a camera on them. They can like record and take pictures, and I think that there's like they can look at things in front of you and like describe it to you. Like, oh, you're looking at like a menu that's in Japanese, and it can like kind of translate it. Or you're looking at like a certain plant or something. It can tell you what type of plant this is if you wanted to buy one for yourself. So I mean, it's supposed to have like applications like that. I actually thought that'd be a really cool thing to buy if I just kind of had the discretionary, however much, $300-400 to spend on it.
I mean, it's like their augmented reality, which I think actually has a stronger future.
It's got more of a use case, I'd say.
Like virtual reality does. We're still missing like investment in the technology, but I do think augmented reality is just you never leave the real world. And so you're encouraged to actually like use them when you're out and about. You can create FOMO that way. You can probably find a use for them in your day-to-day life versus a large virtual reality headset. So, I mean, you know, if I had to put money on like, if I had to bet on the future of like the Meta Quest versus the what are they, the Quest Ray-Bans?
Yeah, little Ray-Bans.
My money's actually on the Quest Ray-Bans, despite the fact that I own a Quest, a Meta Quest.
I still think that like the Quest is just cooler. Like I don't know, but I'm also a nerd. Like I want to see VR be like a very widely adopted thing.
I want it to as well, but now I'm at a point where it feels it's just as likely to not be here.
It's like a coin flip.
Yeah,
it's a coin flip. Okay, cool. Well, that is certainly a conversation about VR that I didn't expect to get as. I mean, I'm sure people will have like lots of thoughts on it. What I'd like to know from people in the audience, you know, do you have a Quest headset? Do you have, God forbid, an Apple Vision Pro?
You got you paid, like, y'all paid.
You probably have too much money to be listening to this. And
send a super chat if you got an Apple Vision Pro.
You can super chat us. Buy us one, please.
Prove you can afford one by sending $3,000.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, there is a gaming controversy that's been happening. Do you have the story?
I do.
You've got the story.
I was saving it for last. I didn't want to talk about it.
Oh, you want to talk about it last? Okay. If you do want to talk about it last, then I've got a fairly quick one that we can.
Okay, what you got?
Amazon insists Just Walk Out isn't secretly run by workers watching you shop. Do you know what Amazon Just Walk Out is? Is
that those Amazon brick and mortars where you just walk in, grab what you want, and you walk out?
Yeah. So Amazon is pushing back on claims that its cashierless Just Walk Out technology is run by humans in India, not AI. So in a blog post on Wednesday, the e-commerce giant calls these reports untrue and says that a machine learning model is what powers its system. So here's the thing. Last week, reports started going around that claimed Amazon employs around 1,000 workers in India to watch people shop and review purchases at stores using its Just Walk Out tech. The report claims that Amazon's workers had to review around 700 of every 1,000 transactions in 2022, something that isn't uncommon in the world of AI. But while Amazon insists that these reports are erroneous, it doesn't deny that humans aren't involved in the process at all. Instead, Amazon says its workers are tasked with annotating AI-generated and real shopping data to improve the Just Walk Out system, not run the whole thing. So, yeah, basically it was found out, or at least reported, that when you go in there, what seems like this cool futuristic system is just a bunch of people in India watching you shop on camera. So
I mean,
So what do we think?
that reminds me of something. There's some other.
How do you feel about this?
There was some other technology where you think it's all high tech and like super like
I feel
futuristic.
like I know what you're talking about. I can't remember.
But it ended up being like just people behind the scenes, just as low tech as humanly possible, doing all the real work. It really
reminds me of like just the one-way mirror thing.
Yeah,
like it's just a concept where it's like, yeah, like this is something so cool, and then there's like also like a creepy person like watching you from across the mirror.
But in this case, it's just like, is there really technology at play here other than a camera? Like if. Their whole claim to fame is like, oh, it's a quick and easy shopping experience. It's so futuristic. But really, some guy is just watching you, clocks you going in, watches everything you buy, enters it into his database, and then charges you as you walk out. I mean,
it's interesting because I guess for me, it's like, what else could it be?
They made it sound like that it was this automated thing, probably powered by AI.
Yeah, now they also say that there are companies going to be pulling back on its just walk out technology. It found that customers, quote, prefer to use Amazon's Dash Cart, which automatically tallies up items as you place them inside the cart in larger grocery stores. So, meanwhile, Amazon says just walk out is better suited for stores with a curated selection of products where customers may only need to purchase a few items.
So your people in India can more easily track what they've purchased.
Amazon plans to launch more small format third-party just walkout stores in 2024 than any prior year. It still isn't giving up on bringing the cashierless tech to larger stores either. So they say they're working to improve the latency and accuracy for faster and more reliable receipts.
It's interesting because it wasn't long ago that I heard that larger retail stores like Walmart and stuff are bringing back their checkout machines. Not the self-checkout ones, but the normal ones.
Yeah, because like self-checkout's been the cause of so much theft.
They be stealing.
I can't be surprised. Like it's self-checkouts
which one of y'all been stealing at the Walmart self-checkout? Who been doing it?
I imagine a few people. You know that one meme where it's like, oh damn, that costs $150. I can make that $45 at the self-checkout. Yeah, it's Do you like the self-checkout at Walmart?
I love self-checkout.
You prefer it? Why do you like it?
I don't like talking to people.
Same. I love the self-checkout because I am able to like kind of get through the process pretty quickly and on my own.
I hate it when they think I need help. It's like, bitch, I know.
Yeah.
I know how to use this.
The only real problem I have with self-checkout is like when you have to enter those things where like you do have to get the employee to...
Oh, if you're buying alcohol or something, yeah.
Yeah, or like even... fruit, I think, like stuff where you have to weigh it, like fruits and vegetables.
Oh, I just put it on the sensor.
You have to like weigh it, and I think it usually works. Like sometimes there'll be like one that's like doesn't have like an entry in the system. And
I just find whatever's closest.
Oh, you suppress that?
Okay. Like if I have a type of apple and their system does not have it in there, I'm plugging in the next closest apple. Yeah. Is it cheaper? Is it more expensive? Okay, it's never more expensive. But look, I'm paying for something, all right?
Yeah, who's to say?
I couldn't tell if these were Honeycrisp or Gala apples. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I thought that was kind of interesting that like that's one of those automated systems that isn't like it's not quite there, and it doesn't really feel like it prevents theft, and so some of these stores are struggling with that.
It's not my fault that they don't have Benora dumb apples, so I got to put in whatever the cheapest apple is.
Yeah, cool. So this is the Amazon just walk out thing. I don't know that I would ever really... I mean, I don't live anywhere where one of these is, so I don't have like...
Yeah, I don't think we'll see one in Louisiana anytime soon.
Not happening. Okay, here's another little fun one. Did you have anything else before the...
No.
Okay. LinkedIn is the latest company to get in on gaming. So you ever think of LinkedIn as a gaming company? Yeah, so LinkedIn is now in the gaming business. Starting today, users on the LinkedIn mobile app or on desktop can play one of 3 different games: Pinpoint, Queens, and Cross Climb. You'll be able to play each game once per day, and after your daily session, you'll get access to all kinds of metrics, including your high score and daily streak, different leaderboards, and who in your networks has also played. The games are available under the LinkedIn News and My Network section on desktop or the My Network tab on mobile. So I don't think you ever really imagined LinkedIn would have like games. It's supposed to be all about like networking and like jobs and business and all that.
At least that's what LinkedIn would like you to think. Or yeah, that's like the cover story. But LinkedIn clearly just wants to be like another social media platform.
Yeah, here's a brief rundown of the 3 games. Pinpoint is a word association game. The game will unveil 5 different words, and your job is to guess the category the words fit into. The words reveal themselves on a timer, with the objective being to guess the category in as few words as possible. Cool. Cross Climb combines trivia with clever wordplay. You'll be given a clue for a word, and with that word as a starting point, you'll create a ladder of words, with each subsequent entry being just one letter off from the one before. So, and then there's Queens. It's the most interesting game, as it's merely Sudoku without numbers. Place queens in a grid such that no queens touch each other, and there's a single queen in each row and column. Do any of these sound like interesting to you? Here's like
it's not even that these games aren't interesting.
This is Cross Climb.
I'm not playing games on LinkedIn.
You're not?
No, like I'm also not playing games on Netflix. I'm also not playing games on Crunchyroll. I'm so sick of these non-gaming platforms adding in games. I don't know what are the numbers that are making them think that this is the move, but there are so many examples of this, and I don't understand why. I play mobile games already. I don't need mobile games in my non-mobile game apps.
LinkedIn's decision to get into puzzle games shouldn't be surprising. Digital content businesses are struggling to make money, with ad revenue shrinking and Google doing its level best to ensure you never click on a valuable link again. That's a separate story. Yeah, well, people are talking about how Google search is so shitty now. Adding a slate of gaming content has proven hugely valuable. It offers a unique way for businesses to capture new users and engage older ones before eventually getting both to spend money they otherwise wouldn't. Where
is the success story? That's what I want. Like, who is proving that this works?
Well, here's something. According to Axios, New York Times games were played over 8 billion times last year, with more than half of those plays belonging to Wordle, the guess the word game that the Times acquired in 2022. The Times offers subscription packages for its games by themselves and in a more expensive all-access package that bundles games with other New York Times content. So, I mean, you know, when I look at it, I kind of get what they're going for here. It's tough to just sell like a subscription. Like, are you gonna really like buy a New York Times subscription?
No.
I think now they're betting. I know this probably doesn't apply to you. I can already tell from your expression on your face the answer to the next question. But would you buy it if it offered games you could play on your phone? I know the answer for you is no. However,
absolutely not.
Apparently, it works for some people.
Because,
like. It works for some people.
I didn't know that the New York Times purchased Wordle.
I remember when that happened.
The thing is, but the people that I don't know about now, I don't know if you can play Wordle in the New York Times app. What I can tell you is this: that the vast majority of people who played Wordle were playing the raw Wordle app. Maybe the New York Times owns it, but they were just playing the game because it was viral and because they saw everyone else playing it, because they have a fear of missing out, because they love these social experiences.
Yeah, that's what it's all
I
about.
have no desire to play these games that are just popular because they're popular. I don't care if your little word game, you scored all your Wordle points today and you're the top 5% of people. Most people are dumb. It's easy to get in the top 5%.
Well, LinkedIn isn't charging for its games yet. Rather, they seem to be a way to keep users engaged on the platform. In addition to displaying a person's high score and daily streak, LinkedIn will show you who in a person's connections is also played, as well as school and company leaderboards. I cannot
believe we've reversed course and brought back Facebook games.
I think it's kind of cool, like, because, you know, LinkedIn's all about like these very, very, very shallow connections that you have, where people are like, congratulations on the promotion, or blah 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 blah. Like,
you got promoted 3 months ago, they posted today.
Yeah, things are very shallow, and it's like, you know, congrats on your promotion at work, or congrats on your 2 years at this place. So I think it's kind of cool that at least with games there's something more tangible there. It's not much more tangible, but like, I don't know, like everything and you know, like LinkedIn just has that reputation for being extremely shallow. At least with games you can know, like, hey, people on this platform are like humans.
Game maybe, somewhere else.
All right, listen, I just wanted to share the story. I thought it'd be cool. Like, so I will be playing my LinkedIn games. Don't you worry.
Won't.
I know.
I know you won't.
I will be not probably playing them, but
I don't like gaming being associated with social platforms. I'm not a fan.
All right, it's time for the big story of the day.
All right.
Take us home.
So I've been trying to avoid this all day, but it's finally time to talk about Gamergate 2.0.
Oh, heavy-handed wording, I hear from you.
So the headline reads, "The Stellar Blade Censorship Circus Explained."
Okay.
So if you've been underneath a rock ball, then you might not know that people are losing their minds about the alleged censorship that is in the hit PlayStation 5 exclusive game Stellar Blade, made by Shift Up.
Yeah. Makers of Nikkei.
So, Stellar Blade is a PlayStation 5 sci-fi action exclusive about fighting monsters and saving humanity in a stylish post-apocalyptic world. So why are thousands of its self-identified fans, like it's self-identified, signing a petition to, quote, free Stellar Blade from censorship? The answer is surprisingly complicated and kind of sad. Sad for who? Let's find out. Former Blizzard developer turned online angry gamer grifter Mark Kern recently posted a change.org petition calling for altered content from a previous version of Stellar Blade to be restored by developer Shift Up.
Yeah.
This is a quote. The content has been censored from the original trailer version posted by Sony. The petition reads, "We as gamers want this content back. We relied on it. We made the game the #1 pre-order worldwide because of it, and this is the true game we want."
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some of this. This is basically that petition that people have where they are saying that, like, Stellar Blade has been censored and they want...
We want the trailer.
Yeah, they want whatever was in the trailer. We want the skimpier outfits back. We want the jiggle physics back. Whatever it is that they feel that Shift Up and Sony have censored.
You're now saying more than the petition does.
Okay.
Because oddly, the petition never explicitly says what the alleged censorship is. Sexy outfits that were nerfed in a pre-release update. Stellar Blade's main protagonist Eve has big boobs and a bigger butt, but some of her most revealing costumes received minor alterations from what's on the unpatched disc version of the game. Graffiti creating an unintentional N-word reference was also removed.
I remember that. That was like a separate story.
So they posted this. They posted a tweet from some person named Scratch_points_Z. Unfortunate but not surprising to see Stellar Blade censored despite promises that the game would be uncensored in all regions. Sony wasn't going to allow that, and they have the track record to show that they can't be trusted, but perhaps it can be reversed. I keep finding it so interesting where we keep throwing the word Sony around in this. Everyone's saying Sony's censoring this game. It's Sony's fault. It's Sony. How do we know that?
Do we know it?
This person seems to know it. I'm opening up their tweet because they have some pictures and we might be able to see the censorship for ourselves. All right. So, this is a headline saying Stellar Blade will be uncensored for all regions. This is one of the reasons why people are mad, because this was the promise. And now you can see the differences between her outfits.
Yeah, so basically they have made some of her outfits less revealing, kind of covered up a bit of, cleavage or underboob or,
Yeah, they hid some of the more exciting places. And now this is the one I noticed was the gore.
Oh, yeah.
There's just differences in how the blood is portrayed. The amount of blood
that gets on her is a lot less interesting.
Now, that was the first thing that I noticed was that when she sliced this monster open, I was like, oh, the blood didn't drench her and the monster's just altogether less blood than I remember seeing in the trailer. And that was what I noticed, but I guess other people noticed the lack of aggressive TNA. There's still TNA in the game. It's just
they wanted
not
more
as much.
Okay.
Back to the article. As soon as I can make this thing go backwards. There we go.
Okay.
So the main accusations of censorship revolve around things like a bunny swimsuit where a layer of lace was added to cover up some of Eve's cleavage, and the cut of the fabric was changed to cover up more of her hips. It's not about inches of fabric. It's about fighting the double standard and getting Stellar Blade customers what was advertised, Kern tweeted over the weekend.
Okay.
In a launch day interview, Stellar Blade director Kim Hyung-tae was asked point blank about the censorship issue and if the development team would consider rolling that part of the update back. We are aware of the issue and we would like to address that the final product we intended was outfits for a certain age group. I do know my answer could make everyone happy, and we can't promise you anything right now, but we are discussing the issue internally. So it does sound like the Stellar Blade director is considering making the game sexy again?
All right, what do we think?
Wait, one more paragraph.
Okay.
The fact The fact that the changes were apparently a voluntary creative choice doesn't appear to have stopped Stellar Blade truthers from moving forward with the conspiracy, however. Shift Up made some bad marketing choices and either shipped outfits they liked better or were silently censored by Sony. Kern wrote in an update to the petition trying to rationalize the free Stellar Blade fight in the face of the director's own denials. In the end, that is less important than the overall win that we are getting here in the long-term battle. They are fighting to the best of their ability, and they also make mistakes. So he's not blaming Stellar Blade. He's blaming Sony.
So despite Sony has forced Shift Up to censor Stellar Blade.
That's his opinion, and many of the people that are...
Many of his the people who agree with him also feel that way.
Yes.
All right, what do we think?
I think it's all dumb.
Okay. Explain.
So... I don't know why we're looking towards a AAA console game as being the degenerate paradise that they're looking for. The Stellar Blade looks really good. And Eve does look sexy. But those things are still true even with the censored bits. So I have to wonder, why are we arguing at all?
I mean, I think that the argument... So, to be completely clear and transparent from the start, I think this is stupid and I don't really care about any of it either. Like, I'm not really that into Stellar Blade myself. I think it looks like a cool game. I'm not going to be like the person buying it. I think the people who are complaining are probably being a little bit whiny. However, let's see it from their perspective. This game was originally marketed with one look and clearly has walked some of that back.
Yes.
And so at least in that way, that's not them being whiny. I mean, that literally is, it was marketed one way and now it kind of is different than what we were, originally shown.
Yes.
So I get that. It sounds to me like the developers at least intend to, like they're considering maybe just, here's kind of the skimpy director's cut version type of thing. I mean, and that might be an option that people can get. I think making a petition.
Paid DLC.
That would be scummy. I think that the petition comes across a bit whiny.
I mean, there's many things that I think gamers can draw the line in the sand in. I think it's crazy that this is the one.
Yeah,
Ubisoft and EA have done all sorts of weird things, but this is really what's got people fired up.
It's interesting because if you're signing this petition, you're really certainly saying something about yourself.
Are you saying were you lied to? Yes, but that's every game developer. Every game developer, for the most part, has sold you a bit of a lie, and what you're supposed to do is just return the game, get your refund, move on.
Yeah, but I guess for them, this is the first time that they were maybe getting a fully fledged sort of AAA 3D action game like this. Because I guess, and I might be putting words in people's mouths here to kind of presuming to know, but basically if you want those sort of, degenerate waifu-esque games, right? You have to kind of find them on mobile.
Yes.
For the most part.
And they're way more degenerate than Stellar Blade. This is some light work.
But the thing is, if they're on mobile, then they're probably 2D or live 2D, things like that. But you're not going to get this full, she can just run around and flip and jump and spin and crawl and crouch.
Then you've never played Snowbreak.
And cutscenes. So is Snowbreak like Stellar Blade? Is it
It's more of a shooter.
Okay. Because, that was my assumption, is that's why people maybe feel hard done by here, is that they wanted their first kind of sort of degen game as a AAA title. And that's something that you can't really get on mobile.
But the weird thing is, you still get that. The game is still plenty sexy. Is it less? Sure. But my thing is, Stellar Blade still accomplishes what it was supposed to accomplish. If you are so upset by the censorship, then you just return it. Making an entire idealistic stand on this point.
It's a weird hill to die on.
Crazy to me.
It's a weird hill to die on.
Because there's a lot of scummy things the gaming industry does time in and time out.
Yeah.
But this is right here. This is where we're drawing the line. For Shift Up, a company that 99% of people had never heard of before, for a game that none of them were hyped about until just some months ago.
Yeah. I don't know. I I get what they're going for. I just think it's a little bit whiny.
I'm just sick of the whole like this hard like we hate censoring line that's been drawn in like the gaming and nerd space for a while now. Like, and this is a hot take. Get over it. Censorship happens. It happens. It has happened. It will happen.
It does. Okay.
Like, just getting upset at every single form of censorship, no matter how minute, no matter how important, no matter how derivative. It's a waste of time. Save your energy for real battles that need to be fought. No one's gonna die or cry over Stellar Blade. And that's for coming from someone who's familiar with Shift Up, who was going to play Stellar Blade one way or another. Like, I don't care if they censored some of the game.
I think that I agree with you, but I think that the only real problem here is that they showed the uncensored version first. I think that if they had just not done that, like if it just, like there's one where it's like, okay, the cleavage like is like cut down to here, right?
Yeah.
And if they had like, and then like in the final version, there's like kind of some top thing that kind of raises it up to here. If they had never seen the first version, there'd be no complaint. So I think that Shift Up maybe in their early marketing, if they just shouldn't have maybe done that in the early marketing. That's just their only.
I mean, it's just another example of like game developers showing us trailers of things that aren't actually in the game, or they're not implemented in the game the same way they're presented.
That's true.
And
this isn't the first time that's
happened. We can think of that happening so many times.
Yeah.
So like, I just wish people would relax and not make this the one.
Yeah, because
it looks
we're gonna die on.
Horrible.
It looks really. It does look really bad if you're like kind of on that petition. I saw I'm so sorry. I don't mean to judge, but I saw the like little videos people could leave on the petition page where like it's not a great look. But
like, if we're gonna fight this fight, at least fight it on better ground.
There's one last thing that kind of got me thinking. Like, there's a lot of people who are calling this Gamergate 2.0. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but have you ever found it weird that like the term gamer? Like, have you noticed that it's only like, why do people who enjoy a variety of different video games with like different tastes, preferences, and genres all get categorized as gamer? But like, what other activity gets that large of a label? Because like, I wouldn't call you a music enjoyer, a musicer. You just listen to music. Like everybody listens to music, right? Or like, a TV watcher. TV watchers have gotten so these days. TV watchers are so cringe. But like, yet gamers, we get this like, we all must be the same thing. So I hate when like articles and headlines like this come out.
It makes it sound monolithic.
Yeah, exactly. This monolithic approach where it's like, gamers can't stop whining about not having jiggle physics, or the gamers this, gamers that. It's like, I am not like on this petition. Like I don't, you know what I mean? But as a even slight gamer, it's kind of, there's this overall.
Hey, you're included in here like too.
This. We're all in this together, in this zoo together. So that's just always been a weird thing to me. Like why do gamers exclusively get that treatment?
It's all about the image of the basement dwelling gamer that many people that are not as in touch with how what the world is like today, when they think of gaming, they still think of the overweight, smelly basement dweller playing like World of Warcraft when they talk about gaming, when that could not be a more dated way to describe gamers than ever. Because right now, pretty much everybody plays games in some way or another, and we come in all shapes, sizes, creeds, dialects, everything. I think we're way too diverse to be using the label gamer anymore.
Yeah, I think that gaming has just stretched too far for that to really be a thing. So it's something that I don't understand when people are like, gamers are angry about this, or like something gamers that. And I'm just like, we're not like monolithic. It just there's too much diversity in gaming now in terms of what people want.
Not everyone even was interested in Stellar Blade. Not everyone likes more like degenerate waifu type gamer games. And I like Stellar Blade. I like a little degeneracy in my games. Like, do I care so much that I'm gonna like start or even sign a petition over it? No, because that's goofy. But hey, do you?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit lame, but anywho, I would love to hear what the people in the chat have to say.
I'm sure they'll cut my head clean off.
Yeah, they might not be too happy with you, Alec. They might not be. All this woke censorship ruining my games. Okay. It is time to open the pot of greed.
I think it's already open.
Like we draw our cards.
Did you get consent before you put your hand in there?
The pot can't offer consent. It's what goads me.
Wow.
Goad is a term used in Magic the Gathering as well.
Goad is an MTG term.
Goaded. Not goated, but goaded.
The black goat laughs.
Here's my first card. Thank you guys, as always, for submitting questions to the pot of greed. You can always do that with the link down below in the description. Cool. I'll go first.
All right, what you got?
Why do you think the Pokemon TCG has gotten way more collectors than players? Will Yugioh ever meet the same fate?
Okay. That one I think is it's fairly straightforward, right?
Okay.
I think Pokemon is just that massive. Mm-hmm. It's not even that their gameplay is worse or their game isn't good. It's that Pokemon is so massive. There are more people interested and familiar with Pokemon than actually would even care to play a card game.
I think a big part of what helps Pokemon is that the trading card game is just one of the many like Pokemon media forms. Mm-hmm. Like what's interesting is that, like, for instance, the anime is the biggest selling thing, like anime and merch. It sells actually more than even like the video games do in terms of profits. I heard that
makes sense. I can believe that. I can believe that.
And so like, I think what also happens is with the TCG, you can open a pack of Pokemon cards and like anybody can like point out one of those like 10 cards or whatever, 12, however many come in a pack, 10 or 12 cards that they like. It's just like, oh, I like that Pokemon. You have to know how to play. You don't have to care. The art's big and colorful and bright. And you can be like, oh, I like that one. That's it. And so, you know, when there's like 50 different arts of Mudkip or 50 different arts of this evolution that you like or whatever, or for you, what would that be?
Tyranitar,
Pangoro, Pancham.
Oh, he's cool too.
Yeah, like, you know, there's a few different arts of it. And so it's like, oh, I like that one. Oh, I like that one too. I have my Tyranitar collection. And I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't really have like that mainstream appeal in that, like, if you were to open a pack of, any pack in the last 10 years and someone was sitting, like, you know, you're a sibling or cousin or whatever sitting kind of beside you, they're not going to recognize any of it. Yeah. Like,
I think it's nothing that Pokemon does, that it's nothing that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is doing wrong or why it can't do that. It's just that Pokemon is so massive. This is a purely unique Pokemon experience that I don't think, at least in the West, we will ever see again.
And then people also tie memories to Pokemon, unlike Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, people tie memories to specific Pokemon. Like, Charizard is a memory for some people and stuff like that. But
that's because of how well maintained that brand and franchise has been ever since its inception. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have made sure that every single generation of person has a Pokemon memory.
Yeah, people have a favorite Pokemon, a memory of an episode or something. Oh, there goes the main camera. Well, almost made it the whole way.
It was only a matter of time.
As for why it's gotten more collectors than players, so I have a hot take on that, actually. Outside of the big, Pokemon's popular thing, the Pokemon TCG is kind of boring. And by boring,
that's an opinion.
To play. And the reason why I say that
is said y'all are boring people for playing it.
I didn't understand this until I kind of started playing Magic recently, is that Pokemon gives you absolutely nothing that you can do in your opponent's turn. There's quite literally nothing you can do. Like, I mean, that there might be some new mechanic that I'm unaware of, but to my knowledge, when you end your turn, you might as well like go get up and grab a drink because like you cannot interact with your opponent. And I know people give Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of shit for the whole, like, you playing during your opponent's turn, all that stuff, hand traps. But it actually adds a lot more depth and interactivity that Pokemon just does not have. And Magic, to some degree, at least has that. It's got, like, instants. It's got, like, you still, like, pick blockers and they kind of have things. But, like, Pokemon doesn't really have that. And I think that, so in that way, at least to me, Pokemon's TCG is not all that exciting to play. That's a hot take, though.
That is a hot take, yo. Like, get them in them comments.
The more safe, lukewarm take would probably just be that literally Pokemon is more famous than it is playable. It just is. Like, I mean, it's.
And that's just because of how massively popular it is. At least that's my opinion. It's just that Pokemon is so popular. Of course, you have more collectors than players because TCGs are niche. Pokemon is not.
Number one media franchise. Will Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever meet the same fate? That's the last part of the question.
Oh, yeah. I don't think so.
Doubt it. I mean, like, if the TCG suddenly starts to if some of the struggles that we like currently see with the Yu-Gi-Oh TCG of maybe like pricing or the lack of accessibility, if that sort of thing like continues, then I could see a world where maybe the TCG kind of isn't very popular, but people always want their Dark Magicians and Blue Eyes.
But we did just set the record for the largest like trading card event, didn't we?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like Yu-Gi-Oh's a game that you're actually intended to play.
Yeah, I mean, and like,
okay, that's another big thing too. That is another big thing too. First, your thought though.
I was just gonna say that. And you mean you can look at the collective prices on collectibles in like in these different card games. Yu-Gi-Oh, like old rare cards are not worth millions. They're not selling like a Black Lotus.
I figured out something too. I've known this for a while. I forgot to mention it in my first answer. So the thing that Yu-Gi-Oh is based off of, like Yu-Gi-Oh TCG is based off of like the Yu-Gi-Oh anime and manga or whatever. What do they do in the anime and manga? They play the game that you're playing. Pokemon's not like that.
Nope.
The Pokemon TCG is an like interpretation of a Pokemon battle, but when you watch the Pokemon anime, they're not playing cards. They're just fighting with their Pokemon.
Though they should make an anime about that.
I think they are, aren't they? They're making like something kind of like a little short.
Yeah, there was something like that.
And the same goes for the video games. The way the video games, which like popularized Pokemon a lot too, the way they're played is not how the card game is played. The card game is like an interpretation or translation of a Pokemon battle. And so Yu-Gi-Oh is always probably going to be more like gameplay player first than collector because like the source material is about
we
playing
all want to be
game.
Yugi, we all want to be Jaden, we all want to be Yusei, Yuma, Yuya, Yusaku. Yeah.
Yuga.
All right.
Cool.
So mine reads, any tips for somebody who experiences a lot of anxiety at locals? So as someone who suffered from like performance anxiety and like tournaments and just gets a general amount of anxiety just from playing in front of people like at all times, my best tip,
get over it.
No, because I haven't.
No. That's not what I would say either.
Like, I'm assuming that since you're asking this question, you actually want to overcome the anxiety. And the best answer I can give you for overcoming anxiety is learning to not fight it, but embrace the anxiety. Because I could say just get used to the anxiety. Like, it's always going to be there. But to some degree, like, you never really get used to it because the moment you're not playing at locals, you don't feel anxious at all. Yeah. But then you show up to locals and there's always people and you want to play your cards well, you want to play them right. And now you're more like worried than you are focused and you're not doing the best job anymore. The best answer I can give you is you just gotta you have to keep going and find the way that you have to play in order to combat the anxiety. Like for some people, I know they fight the anxiety by just staring at their cards and nothing else. They can be a bit off-putting to play against at times, but I think a lot of people do have anxiety when they play Yu-Gi-Oh! And they have their different ways of dealing with it. There are some people who chatter. They chatter all game long.
Boxes, yeah.
And for some people that's annoying, but that's how they deal with their anxiety while playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I bounce my knee a lot.
So what's kind of helped me, there's a bit of like a strong stance to have on it, is I remember that like most people at these card shops are like fucking weirdos too. Like honestly, if you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh, you're a weirdo. I think the sooner that you embrace it, like I'm a weirdo, you're a weirdo, everybody listening to this, like that's helped me the most. Is like nobody at this card shop is so unapproachable or so,
nobody's perfect.
So much more just valid as a social being than I am. And I think the sooner that you kind of are just like, yeah, like we're all kind of just weirdos hanging out in a weird place doing a weird thing because we like it and we're having fun. And like that kind of has helped me a lot. I don't think that there's anybody that I can't try to talk to or that like I can't, play a duel against. If I had to maybe try to translate that into something a little bit more tangible, it would probably just be that like, if people are talking about something, just kind of gravitate into the conversation. You don't have to like be the star of the show or anything, but if something comes up that you agree with, like something in the conversation comes up, you can kind of like nod a bit, give a bit of like vocal acknowledgement.
So we're talking about more about the social,
kind of
general interaction. Because I guess the question wasn't really clear about was the anxiety about like just being at locals or playing Yu-Gi-Oh at locals.
Yeah, because for me, if it's like about being at locals, it's like, find your way into the conversation, just kind of like listen, nod, occasionally give some acknowledgement. You'll kind of just find your way in that way. That's helped a lot. If it's more about playing, then I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
I kind of want to comment on the social anxiety part. I actually have a strategy that I always use at shops, and it's not good.
Okay.
So whenever I enter a shop, and especially if it's a shop I'm not used to, there's a bunch of people going on, and maybe it's before a tournament, or maybe there won't be a tournament at all. I go to the front, I buy a box, and I set up my mat, and I just
start opening.
I just start opening packs.
Oh, and that's
because it does two things. Yeah. One, it attracts people to comment on like the cards you're pulling, and then you can kind of like get into the conversation, but you don't have to initiate, which that helps.
Yeah.
But two, it's a good way to pass, like while you're waiting for something to happen, you can pass the time with like a task to do.
Yeah, it takes your mind off of probably the anxiety bit. Very smart. It does take a bit
expensive.
of money.
Yeah, it's an expensive.
I mean, maybe we'll say that the easier way to buy a couple of packs.
Yeah, just buy a couple packs.
I think that can be good.
Because usually, a lot of people at like card shops are awkward and anxious and have social anxiety. We're all looking for something to start the conversation. If I see someone rip open a card that I'm even vaguely familiar with, I'm gonna walk right over and comment on it.
Yeah. That's good advice. I like yours better than mine, I'd say. Mine's a little like, mine's kind of like, I think maybe too, not condescending, but maybe too cynical of an approach, where I'm just like, yeah, we're all fucking nerds,
a bunch
deal
of
with
weirdos.
it. But I think I like yours. It's just, buy a pack and kind of let it go from there. Now, make sure that you know like kind of the value of what you're pulling so you don't get scammed or something off a trade, but that's its own
I've bought many boxes literally off that alone. Just the shop is like kind of devoid of anyone I know. And there's time, and I don't want to sit there doing nothing, so I just buy a box.
Well, here's my question. I've noticed a lack of pendulum support in general. Do you think Konami will slowly forget about them?
I think Konami won't forget. They want you to forget.
Okay, yeah. I have some strong thoughts on pendulums. I've been thinking about a Paul Talks video I want to make on this channel to go into more detail about it, but I suppose this would be a good place to disclose. I feel like Konami regrets pendulums. I think that they want them to disappear in a way. They want you to kind of forget that it was ever a thing. And I think that they have, I won't say good reason to feel that way, but I think that I know why they feel that way. Pendulums made people quit Yu-Gi-Oh!
They did.
I'm not saying, let's be clear here. I don't have a problem with pendulums. I don't think that they're the scum of the earth or they ruined this game. I'm not saying that. I don't believe that. However, real world testimony begs to differ. Whenever you speak to people at like conventions and kind of more casual settings or just whatever, people are always like, I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh! When they made those weird half monsters spell things with 2 effects and the arrows and the this and that. Like, it was a breaking point for a lot of people. I think people did not register pendulums as a cool, fun new mechanic. They registered it as, this game has gotten way too complicated. Here's where I hop off the bus. So, I think Konami lived through an age of pendulums. They even there's the Master Rule 4 thing, which clearly tried to sort of rein them in, along with other things. Electromite happened. There's the pendulum soup problem everybody talks about, where like Electromite's great support for pendulums, but it also kind of turns a lot of pendulum decks into roughly the same thing. I know there are exceptions to that rule. I know there are pendulum decks that do their own thing. But
looking at you, Magic Specters.
But there is something I've noticed about how Konami seems to design pendulums now. They're not pendulums. They use the existence of the pendulum mechanic in a kind of creative, subversive way. And I think that's neat, but it isn't like pendulums per se.
Yeah, they're monster field spells.
They're like monster field spells or something. So take Valence, for instance.
Ugh.
They're really not a pendulum archetype exactly.
They're not even really Yu-Gi-Oh!
Or you take Nemalaria, right? The sleeping girl thing.
I have never read a Nemalaria card.
Yeah. She's like a pendulum monster, but like she's not intended to be like a scale or to do a pendulum summon. She just has her little gimmick of banishing stuff face down from the extra deck and you summon the big stuff. It's not a pendulum deck. Same goes for Valmonica even. where like it doesn't really function as a pendulum deck. It kind of does its own thing, and it just so happens that like the pendulum bit helps a bit. Like if you follow these archetypes, you'll kind of know what I mean. They seem to be less and less about doing the pendulum thing and more about just using some of the contrivances that pendulum provides to be an otherwise separate archetype gimmick. And they've released things that seem to be like a Electromite substitute, like beyond the pendulum.
Yeah.
But I think that Konami is just afraid to bring stuff like Electromite back because they feel that pendulums will just go back to that pendulum soup thing, and maybe they don't want to be prominent. I don't know.
A casual player might come back to the game if they see a Blue Eyes. They might come back to the game if they see Elemental Hero, Flame, Wingman, Infernal Rage. They will not come back to the game if they see a Pendulum monster. And I mean any Pendulum monster.
Yeah, I don't think it's really pulling a lot of people. I mean, there's a few anime exceptions. I know like some people really like Arc 5 and like, they have those.
That's the only ones.
But yeah, I don't want to say Konami's right to do it. Like, I think personally, if it was me, I'd say just fuck it. Bring Electromite back to 1. Because it's been proven, at least through stuff like Master Duel, that like pendulums aren't going to be top of the meta.
But I
Master
think
Duel's got a lot of that stuff around.
As a business, I think they saw like their life flash before their eyes during the pendulum format.
And they want to like tuck it away as
they
far.
don't ever want to experience that again.
Which I think is a real failing on their part. Like, I noticed in the 2-player starter deck rulebook, they don't even mention pendulums.
Nope.
Or wait, no, sorry, they mention it and they say, it's complicated. Like, that's their words, not mine. So it's kind of interesting. Like, it kind of suggests, like, yeah, pendulums are kind of a mess.
But they also skipped Fusion too, which is strange.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't get me started on that product. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do. It sucks if you're a pendulum player and you liked the mechanic and you find it interesting, because it feels like Konami is like actively just fighting against you.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
As an old pendulum enjoyer, at one point it did feel like Konami hates me, don't they?
Pendulums are the only type that they didn't like when they did the Master Rule kind of revision. They kept pendulums tied to links, which is clearly like we don't.
Just to limit them.
I think they could really afford to at least walk that back.
Nah, we shouldn't, because the moment we do, it gets out of hand. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what people would cook up if we did that.
I kind of do.
But that's because you'll play Yu-Gi-Oh regardless of what.
Yeah, I'll play Yu-Gi-Oh no matter what.
Some of us will walk away.
You're still here for now, so, you know, maybe I'll let you play one of your fun Performer Pal variants.
I won't be playing. I won't be here. All right. What does this say? What year did Yu-Gi-Oh reach its peak of success?
What an interesting question to end this off on. What was like, what year was peak Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, peak Yu-Gi-Oh year.
All right, how are we going to define peak
This
Yu-Gi-Oh?
is hard, man. I feel like if I had some empirical data to work with, that would make me. I can make
Konami is not giving you any sales data. You can forget it.
That's true.
How about
even
this?
Like tournament data.
I will define peak Yu-Gi-Oh as there's maybe 2 moments. There can be like peak kind of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, like what I think was maybe like just the peak of competing and going to tournaments, and then peak cultural impact. Right.
Okay.
So I think if we're going peak cultural impact, then probably like 2004, 3, 4, something like that. That probably was like the peak of, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh as a super popular kids product.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's playing it. Kids are having Yu-Gi-Oh.
Undoubtedly, that had to be its peak, at least in the mainstream.
Yeah, like in the mainstream, kids are having, you know, I remember I had a Yu-Gi-Oh birthday party, I think, or a friend of mine did, and I went to it. Like, you know, you would find Yu-Gi-Oh skateboards, you would find Yu-Gi-Oh stickers and little mini tattoos.
Though I can find skateboards and stickers on Etsy right now.
Yeah, but that's not in Walmart, is it? You know, so that sort of thing. The tournaments at Books A Million, the anime's running, Battle City, who's going to win, who's going to get the 3 Egyptian God cards. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh is on the mind.
Yeah.
Your parents know about it because you like it. You know, kids are playing at recess.
And as a general marketer, that would definitely be the peak of Yu-Gi-Oh. As a player, I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh peaked kind of, at least to me, it was early Pendulum format before Pendulums actually became what they are. And so we still had Xyz, we had Synchro, the links were nowhere on the mind.
Maybe like late 2014 you're talking.
Yeah. it was at that point, I think, that was when Yu-Gi-Oh! Was at its peak as a player.
Or like,
we had
2015.
We had all of our strategies. The only people who were struggling were people who wanted to play Pendulums because they didn't have a strategy yet.
Yeah. I'd say, and this is probably recency bias speaking, I think like 2019 felt like a pretty good year. Right before COVID. Well, what? What do you mean?
You would pick 2019.
Yeah, I mean, it's recency bias. Like, I liked TOS format. I think that it was a good format for competing. Just that whole year really felt pretty nice.
I did enjoy playing TOS, that's true.
So, I think that maybe seemingly, the narrative would maybe suggest that, like, 2010, like, Edison was maybe the ideal competitive
But the thing is,
time.
I don't know if that was the ideal or if that's just what became popular.
I think it's closer to what you said, but listen, I'm trying to give nice political answers that will keep everybody happy.
Because I think, XZs didn't end Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, Pendulums were a rough time, and there are people who fell off and never came back when Pendulums were introduced, and the same thing happened with Link Monsters as well. Mm-hmm. So I find it hard to call any time after the introduction of Pendulums and Links peak because we lost a lot of players, and there's so many people that just walk around while still considered players are just disillusioned and disenfranchised with the game.
Yeah,
like there's like these zombies of Yu-Gi-Oh players. They still have their decks and they still play, but they have more criticisms than praise for the game.
Oh my god, that's a new Paul Talks topic. I gotta record that. I mean the Yu-Gi-Oh zombie, because I think it is a real thing. Like,
and we're not talking about
the type.
Dark Ruler Hades.
Yeah, the Yu-Gi-Oh zombie. I mean the player who. They play, but it's almost like it's like a sunk cost fallacy, like the person on Reddit was talking about. It's like a sunk cost fallacy. Like you're really dissatisfied with things, but you can't like pull yourself away from it. You know, you have these memories of like kind of your golden age of Yu-Gi-Oh that you wish could come back, but like
it's gone.
But they're gone. But like in your mind, they'll come back if this next ban list just does this thing, or if this deck just gets this support, or you know what I mean? Like if Konami just kind of changes this little bit about the game, then like it can get back to the way it was when I liked it most. And it's unfortunate to say, but like, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh will probably never be back to what every given person wants it to be.
Right.
So I don't have a point to what I'm saying, but it's just like, yeah, there is like a Yu-Gi-Oh zombie, a disenfranchised player who is just kind of like, they're teetering on the edge, but they're just kind of here.
And I think that's a great spot to end today's Pot of Greed episode.
Yeah, a bit of a somber note the 1 year anniversary, but thank you guys so much for continuing to listen to, watch, and support the Pot of Greed. We don't really have anything that you can like, we don't have a Patreon or anything like that you can pay us with, so just leave us a nice review and let us know down in the comments. Remember, what is your favorite fandom and why? And you too can win a Pot of Greed of your very own. That's right. Without further ado, we'll see you guys in the next one. Pass turn.